Well, shit. Here I am, getting ready for a meeting that gets pushed, and I find that the Strive patch is live. Well, the patch notes, at the very least. So, what am I to do with an hour but hang out with my dog, hi, sweetheart, and break down some of these patch notes? Why not? You get the patch notes right here. Let's see what we're looking at. Version 2.0. Just figure out. So let me go over a little bit what I look at when I'm looking at patch notes, especially for a big patch. Is, the numerical changes are often only so interesting. My thing is I like to look at the overview of the changes and try to make sense of the intent, right? Like, where are we pushing the game with these changes? Because I think one should assume that these changes are being made with care, right? It's very likely, or you want to operate under the belief that these are being done with some sort of end goal in mind. So trying to figure out what that end goal is and visualize what the new sort of end game is going to be is where I find you break these open and you find it really interesting. Let's take a look at some of these. System changes. Roman cancel. Cancel into normal or special moves from Roman cancel. Triggers a slowdown and limits the tension gauge cost. Okay. What does that mean? So I assume this is referring to, when you do fast RC, because you can do RC immediately into something else. Like, really commonly you would see like Potemkin do fast PRC from the slide or whatever the fuck it's called. I'll double check the move name because I can edit this in post. I don't know names of moves. What is it, 6K? Is that what it was? No, Hammerfall. Yeah, Hammerfall PRC Potemkin Buster. And you would see that fast Roman cancel. And it sounds like this is referring to that, so it triggers a slowdown. But what does limit the tension cost mean? So does that mean that if you do a fast RC, it costs less tension? Because that would be huge. That would really break open the meter economy of the game, because as it is right now, I feel like a lot of the game is balanced around you only getting 2 uses of meter, really. Everything costs 50 tension. So if you want to do your supers, if you want to do your YRC, your blue RC mix, red RC combo extensions, using your Roman cancel to bait stuff, using Roman cancel for movement if you're like Zato with JD PRC, like, it's all the same amount of resource, all the same shared resource pool. If a fast RC is now different in terms of the meter economy, that's already pretty big. Counter hit. So moves such as standing P and crouching K trigger a slowdown effect on counter hit, making combos not normally possible available. Interesting. So counter hit 5P and counter hit 2K are specifically going to have new links available to them. Okay. So 5P mash, 2K mash, going to be more valuable. Now, there are certain characters that already got combos off of like 5P and 2K. I think of like Kai can do like 5P, 6P into 214S, I think it is. Or, characters that have 2K, 2D at good ranges and then get Oki off of it, like Kai, 2K, 2D into, H Fireball or Milia in general. But giving this counter hit slowdown is going to be interesting for certain other characters. Characters like, I wonder, like, what does Zato get? Does Zato get 5P, 6P off of counter hit 5P? If so, that's kind of big, right? Because, I feel like characters like that are often balanced around how effective their 5Ps are in, generic context. Now, obviously, this is just for counter hit, so how much is this going to incentivize frame trapping versus how much is this going to incentivize trying to mash through bad pressure? Stands to be seen. We're going to have to see how big the slowdown effect is. This is going to be one of those things that we really need to get our hands on. Faultless defense. You know what? Let me zoom this a little bit. That is the wrong window. Zoom it. Looked to find a way to improve the issue where sometimes a normal would come out when putting FD under certain conditions. We addressed by adding an FD button. Okay, whatever. So there's an FD macro. Big deal. That's a nothing change. I mean, it's valuable, but it's a nothing change. Revised input mechanism. Okay. As a measure to make sure grounded and aerial versions distinct, when a special move was input as a jump is started, the air version would come out at a low height mid-air if an upwards direction was input. This resulted in strict input requirements. Oh, we made the grounded versions activate even when an upwards input is included. Interesting. So they either raised the minimum height to do air special moves, so you can't Tiger Knee them, or they made it so that, an upwards direction at the end of a 2-3-6 is like discarded, in which case if you wanted to Tiger Knee, you have to do up first and then your motion. I don't know that Tiger Kneeing was something that really happened a lot in this game, so that's probably moot, but it's interesting. It's probably nothing. I really can't think of any characters that were Tiger Kneeing. Input priority for 2-3-6 and 6-2-3 moves. General input mechanism, not a change made in the cap. When an input simultaneously includes 2-3-6 and 6-2-3, 6-2-3 is prioritized, but half circle forward prioritizes 2-3-6. I feel like we've already known that. Yeah, decided to reveal it in accordance with the above change. So that's a thing that I feel like we've always kind of known, and that's pretty common in general for a lot of these games. I think back to King of Fighters as an example, where a lot of times half circle forward ends up being the only way to ensure that you get a quarter circle forward motion. You think back to, K-Dash sort of famously had that in King of Fighters, where a lot of K-Dash's bread and butters, when you look at the move description, you have to do 2-3-6s. But if you perform the combo as it's written, you end up you either get super cancels where you don't want them, or you get fireball, uppercut cancels where you don't want them. So the solution is that virtually every fireball has to be performed as a half circle forward motion. This change, although it has several purposes, special moves canceling into overdrives before coming out. Mainly intended to make it easier to perform overdrives, or part of the input is the same as the special move. Bounce 2-3-6 to 2-3-6, 2-3-6. Okay. Input priority for normals. Under certain conditions, crouching normals and command normals now prioritize over standing normals. When putting 2S during hit stop of close S, if you released S too quickly, far stand S would come out. With this change, crouch S comes out. All right, so that's just making input priority a little bit more consistent. That's not dissimilar to stuff we've seen in other titles. Street Fighter 4 had, crouching normals have a higher priority than standing normals. This is probably just something to do with the buffer system. It's probably looking ahead at where you hit the button and, caching the directional input when you press the button and prioritizing that. So, I guess clean up your inputs if you definitely want that standing normal. Universal changes. As many characters had less utility for their JP compared to other aerial attacks, we've adjusted the blowback effect, making it easier to convert into a combo. So, more characters' JPs lead to combo. I mean, that's interesting. JP, unless you were a character that had JP stuff, which really I just think of RAM mashing JP is almost literally the only example I can kind of think of off the top of my head. But otherwise, JP was really just this, you went for an air-to-air check kind of thing. So opening up combo opportunities off of JP makes air-to-airs more valuable for more of the cast in that sense, where now when you go to the air, it's not necessarily just, go for air throw. Now you can go for air throw, but if you hit that early JP, that early air-to-air that we sometimes see, that's going to make that a little bit more valuable. Okay. So we're already seeing we're seeing a lot of strengthening of punch and 5P, JP, getting a lot of sort of inherent value add already just from the universal changes by way of counter hit 5p and JP having better combo opportunity. So, you know, that's your fast normal, that's your check normal. Trying to give you more off of these checks, that's going to make the game almost a little less snowbally, right? Because like suddenly if you get counter hit 5p, now you're eating real damage. The other person's getting meaningful damage into some sort of okie or set play after. And the game swings much more volatile rather than before where you get this, you know, 5p mash. You get like 5p, 6p special move, and then you're like reset maybe, depending on your meter situation, right? Dash cancels. While this was only available to some characters, all characters with dashes can now dash cancel, stand K, and close S. Huh. 5K and close / dash K. In addition to increasing the variety of offensive options, this creates new combos if you dash cancel into a special move. Huh. Okay, that's really interesting. Close slash was obviously always the sort of big money sort of starter for a lot of characters. Like you really wanted that close slash. I feel like that's what gave you the best frame advantage to really open up the strike throw RPS in range 0. 5K being dash cancelable for the whole cast can be very interesting. If you have a strong 5K, that's now something that needs to be checked off of 5K, right? Like you need to be watching for that because 5K dash to steal turns or 5K dash into a different special move is going to be this wider gap, right? And I presume, I mean, odds are you're not going to be able to hit confirm 5K into, you know, dash cancel something. So what's it going to be? You know, how is this ultimately going to play out? Have we just added a new place of stagger pressure that everyone needs to now be checking dashes after 5K or close slash? Overall damage adjustments. Some highly used moves with versatility have had their damage decreased. Good overdrives that work well as counterattacks have had their startup recovery revised with their damage remaining unchanged to make it easier to punish them while blocked. Also good. I am generally a fan of your big, fast, invincible reversal option being punishable on block unless you have another resource to spend. Changes. Roman cancel. Trigger slowdown when canceling into a normal or special. Only triggered when in close proximity to the opponent. Okay, so it's the same thing they said above. You get new combo opportunity. Now causes tension gauge to gradually deplete. As opposed to cashing out all at once. I need to see this change in action. Because that almost reads as though it's going to make it so that instead of immediately burning the 50 tension, you deplete the 50 tension, which immediately makes me think of like Nago blood stuff, where you have spent X amount of blood gauge, but it takes time to get there, so you actually have time to double dip and use that meter differently. I don't imagine that's what this is, but that's almost how it reads to me, so I'm really curious to see the Roman cancel change. Blue RC, the timing for canceling into a normal or special move faster. Okay. PRC, same change. The slowdown from PRC now ends when an attack lands. Okay, so you PRC, the shockwave causes the slowdown effect, and you land a move. They can't continue to be slow after that to get you a gimmicky link after. So PRC is only good for one slowdown link. Red RC no longer applies scaling when the shockwave from a red RC hits the opponent. Oh, so red RC had it counted as a hit for the purpose of damage scaling, and now it won't. So red RC combos are going to do more damage. So that's good. I mean, they were already used as extensions, but I mean, even more damage out of them is actually kind of crazy. Blue burst. When you do blue burst before the overdrive activates, the burst will no longer be canceled. Okay, so your input won't get eaten. That's good. I can't say that it ever happens to me. I now wonder if it's like, does that mean that if you burst before the super and then the super hits in a certain way, you're going to get smoked? Probably not a huge change. Burst in general fixed a bug where the activation of burst hitbox would be delayed under certain circumstances. When activated above a certain height, the speed the character rises at is now reduced. Oh. So if you burst in the air, which was already bad, you jump up into the air less or slower. Okay. So does that help air burst? Because if you go up slower, that means you're lower to the ground when it happens, which means that the shockwave is more likely to hit them. Or is it saying you have to travel a certain height once you activate burst, and it will now take longer for burst to activate before above a certain height, which would actually make air bursting even more punishable because it would mean that more moves have time to recover and block the air burst because of the increased startup. I wonder. Dash. When inputting the dash button, inputting back directly after no longer performs a back dash. Okay, so that makes dash blocking. That's good. This is the input priority change about crouching normals being prioritized. Crouching normals and command normals, it looks like 6P and 2P are better than 5P and JP. Depending on the current movement speed of the attacking character, the launch and blowback of the opponent on hit now changes. Okay, so air hit stop is now dependent on your own momentum. I wonder if that is just to keep the character at a closer fixed distance to you, or if it's like if you're moving super fast, you'll actually blow them away. This could just be a consistency thing where, like, if you're moving at a particular speed and you catch them in like a neutral jump, that they will inherit your forward momentum so that you can perform air combos regardless of your initial trajectory, like you'll pull them with you. Special moves can be canceled into overdrive before the move comes out. Okay, that's the change that it described above. So is that going to make for some weird super links that didn't exist before, because you could do like special move into super? I wonder. Command grab super characters, maybe it'll be interesting because you could, Kara cancel it off of, XYZ special move without spending additional resources. I think of like Jacko as a command grab, right? Jacko kick into command grab super, or Eno's ground command grab, stroke into command grab, catch them unawares. Wonder. Some overdrives are affected by prior movements such as dash momentum. Okay. Interesting. Add an FD button, decreased amount of tension depleted when blocking starts. Okay, so FD gets its own macro, and FD's cheaper. When wall stick initiates simultaneously with the super flash, the wall stick will now be prioritized. Okay. That's probably like a quality of life kind of thing where, again, I can't say that I've, necessarily experienced this happening, but whoa, I just looked ahead. Hold on. Wall break, there would be a variable distance between the characters after the wall break, depending on conditions such as stage when the wall break was triggered by the overdrive. Okay, so they're making the position after wall break more consistent. That's good. Throws, fixed a bug where risk level deplete more than intended when RCing during a throw. Okay, so that's good, right? A lot of the management around the risk gauge is really predicated on eventually being able to cash out that big thing, and you go for throw, it feels bad to lose all of that risk gauge development, so that's good. Character now switches direction to face opponent when canceling some jumping normals into another move late in the animation. Okay, so I don't know if this is to enable cross-ups or if this is to enable weirder side switch stuff in the air. That's going to be another one that I'm going to be curious to see. Fixed a bug where crouching moves could be performed under certain jump land conditions. Yeah, fine. All versions of punch and kick normals now trigger slowdowns on counter hit. Huge. 5P, 2P, JP, 5K, 2K, JK, all having counter hit slowdown is gigantic, because it means now that if you smartly stick out these moves under pressure and get that counter hit because your opponent is trying to build off of layer 1 and do more gimmicky pressure, now suddenly you get a more meaningful combo. You get to start your stuff. I'm going to be really curious the length of the slowdown effect. What can you link? Like, can you get 5P close slash? Because that would be absolutely insane. Right now, just in the universal changes, this is the thing that I think is going to open up the game the most. Making it so, like, it's very, very distinctly rewarding your own Abare. That's huge. 5K can be dash canceled. Doesn't apply to Potemkin and Naga. That makes sense. They don't really have dashes. Now launches opponent less than previously when used multiple times in the same combo. Okay, so 5K dash cancel, but also 5K loses juggle when used later, so it's going to be easier to use it as combo fill, but you cannot use it as combo fill as much. Same change for close slash. Also makes sense. Super interesting. So combine 5K dash cancel ability with 5K slowdown. If you have a good 5K, that's huge. Oh, fuck me, Soul. Oh. Fuck. Soul is going to have a 3-frame counter hit confirmable dash cancelable anti-air. Dice Gaze Vision. I have the shirt somewhere. I have the shirt over there. Okay. I hope Soul got some nerfs to compensate for this. All right. Actually, looking at the cast right now. I zoomed out of the wrong one again. Balls. Looking at the cast right now, the generic system changes. Soul's going to get stronger. Kai's 5K isn't bad. Kai probably gets stronger. Zato gets stronger by way of counter hit confirms off of 5P and 2P. His 2K was also pretty good. I don't know that he was counter poking with kicks very often. Jeez. Gold Lewis, there's a kid at our local that gets away with mashing 2P as Gold Lewis all the time. Nobody meets him properly. He's probably loving those system mechanic changes. All right. Let's take a look. Soul. Adjustment to his 2K and sweep. Improve low attack options. Strengthening his ability to pressure his opponent. I'm going to stop you right there. Did he need that? He was already a mids-focused character. Giving him lows is low-key unnecessary. I'm going to open up Dust Loop on the side, because I don't know move names. So let's reference some of these move names as they come up. Volcanic Viper. That's DP, yeah? Yeah, Viper is DP. Has been improved as an offensive tool. With adjustments to its hitbox and more, as there was a window with no active hitbox directly as Soul ascends, meaning it would not always function as an invincible move. Okay, this is what I wanted to see. On the other hand, as his 5K and Far Slash were too strong compared to other characters, their performance has been decreased while leaving their greatest strength, the attack startup and recovery on block, as is. Okay. 5K decreased attack level, increased scaling, depletes more risk, increased blowback scaling on combos with 5K. Okay, so I actually don't remember what attack level means, but 5K is just generally a worse starter, and it reads like it's going to net you less combos after. So even with the system change, like Soul already got stuff off of mashing out 5K, so the counter hit start kind of affects him a little bit less, but they are weakening 5K's effectiveness as a combo starter. So I can get behind that. I feel like that was one of the things that was really annoying about Soul was, you know, he had a 3-frame combo starter that was jump cancelable. and led to all this stuff. It was such a unique thing to him. And the amount of times that you would see Soul getting like wall-to-wall damage on 70% off of 5k, like anti-air or counter poke, was absolutely insane. 2k decreased knockback. Okay, so decreased knockback, so he gets more off of 2k. I'm sure he could 2k 2D, but now at a farther range, he can probably 2k 2D. 2k command normal probably ends up a little bit better. More importantly, decreased knockback combined with the counter hit change means that he gets more meaningful combos off of 2k counter hit because they're closer. I wonder if they stay close enough if they're right on top of you to get like close slash after. Far slash less damage. 6S less damage. I'm really liking all of the less damage. 6H increased recovery. Yes. 6H was such a wonky move. Like, the fact that post-wall break, Soul could just kind of stick out 6H and people had to respect it was kind of crazy for me, and it was one of those moves that it felt like there was nothing you could freaking do about it. Expanded upwards hitbox. Okay, so it hits a little bit higher. I feel like it only hit... I have the hitbox open on the side here. Look at the hitbox. Yeah, it only hit, like, really low to the ground. So I think that's... Hopefully it's not too much higher, because that would sort of fly in the face of what the normal looks like it's doing, but that's okay. 2D, expanded hitbox and hurtbox, increased horizontal blowback distance. Huh. So it hits farther in front of him and knocks them down farther away. So do you not get as much after the sweep? Or is it that now Gunflame, if you do 2D into Gunflame, Gunflame hits Meteor and you get better frame advantage? Or is that to compensate because 2K has less blowback, that 2K 2D still keeps a consistent spacing? It might actually just be that they pushed it forward so that 2K 2D's spacing remains unchanged. So they had to, like, 2K and 2D had a certain amount of blowback, and they just changed the orientation of it. JP launches higher. Okay, so JP is like a better juggle filler. JK launches opponent higher, same thing. JD, reduced front hurtbox, less wall break gain. That is interesting. If it has less wall break gain, does that mean that it is going to be more likely that you're going to get to do your sort of pseudo dust loops for longer? Because I feel like you only got like one rep of the dust loop before you started to wall splat. But if the wall break value is less, depending on how much less, there might be situations where you get to use even more of it. So that'll be interesting. I'm okay with him getting new combos. Ground throw, decreased recovery on successful throw, so he gets better frame advantage off a ground throw? Okay. Gunflame feint, decreased recovery, the feint is better? What was the recovery on feint? 30 frames of recovery. Jeez. Okay. So his stagger game is better. This might be to preserve the strength of the feint, because with the new counter hit properties to punch and kick normals, if your feint gets checked after, it's leading to more damage, which makes the feint less effective. So depending on how much different this recovery is, this change could actually be just to allow the feint to continue to function in a system where punch limbs are a much more meaningful counter poke. So you still need to check him after, but given that everything can operate so much faster around mashing that 5P now, this is probably just to reorient the strength of feint around that. We'll have to see what the difference is. Hopefully it's just like 30 to like 25 or some shit like that. Nothing too drastic. All versions of Volcanic Viper. Soul is now in a standing position on landing rather than crouching. Okay. Huh. Does that mean... I'm sure he could still crouch block. But you could fuzzy him? I mean, when are you fuzzying him after that? Added a hitbox directly after ascent begins and remains throughout. Okay. Expanded hitbox and reduced hurtbox during ascent. can no longer be Roman canceled while the opponent's gold burst is active. That's a really weird and niche change. You could RC DP when specifically gold burst was out? That's weird. When blocked midair, the opponent now lands more quickly before. Okay, so if you chicken block DP, you will land faster and presumably be able to punish more. SDP increased startup. Yes. SDP had some gimmicky stuff. Aerial Bandit Bringer. Decreased attack startup. Aerial Bandit Bringer is faster? Huh. I wonder why that is. Why would we want to make that fast? I really can't suss out the intention behind that change. Charged Vortex. Vortex is, yeah, that's the move I thought it was. The one that, low profiles. Charged Vortex launches higher and pushes the Mac less. Okay, so Charged Vortex is a better combo starter, which, within the context of the system changes, means that if you get away with fully charging Night Raid Vortex, it means they respected you a certain amount, which means that they are increasing the reward of getting away with the full charge in a system where, once again, 5p, 5k, 2p, 2k mashes to blow up these checks are going to lead to more damage. So it looks like what they're doing a lot for Soul is they're increasing the reward and the use case for moves that suddenly have a much weaker use case in a system with the counter hit changes to punch and kick normals. So it seems like, okay, so combine that, Fafnir, reduced lower hitbox, Tyrant Rave, increased startup, increased recovery. Okay, fine. Taken on the whole, the Soul changes, overwhelmingly, 5k, they know 5k is already good. The system changes make 5ks even better. So they weaken 5k as a combo starter. Decrease damage on a lot of his most used tools. 2k pushes back less, which is big in the context of the system changes, because now 2k counterpoke into something else is a combo. So this improves Soul's ability to low check with 2k or to frame trap with 2k and get stuff out of it, which all opens up his offensive capabilities beyond just being a mids monster, which he was already really good at. And otherwise, it looks like these changes have a lot to do with rebalancing his power around this new system change of 5p and 5k counter hit stuff. That is to say, Gunflame Feint having less recovery is because if it takes as long, then it is easier to get checked in a system where now the checks after Gunflame Feint are much more powerful. Or Charged Night Raid Vortex being a better starter, because if they're checking your Charged Night Raid Vortex, they are getting more out of it, so they are giving you a better reward for using that move. So this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I look at these changes. You combine the system mechanics with the character changes, and you sort of try to evaluate where are they pushing the character. So yeah, Soul overall buffed, but buffed by way of giving him new ways to play around the changed system mechanics. To be completely honest, I don't think it's that drastic of a change for him. I think a lot of this stuff is going to be stuff that happens sort of universally, like the different juggle properties on air normals to lead to better air combos. And otherwise, most of these seem like they are reining in extreme damage or allowing him to continue to function the way he is supposed to in the new system. All right, Kai. Check out Kai. Kai is such an interesting character in the context of this game. I feel like early on, Kai was sort of not highly regarded. He was just sort of this. He had the problem that you sometimes see where, you know, these all around characters, they have every tool, but they just don't have enough of a particular tool to shine. Until people really figured out that it's like, oh crap, if you know, really hit confirm with him, like he can control the game very effectively, and single hit confirms into Ride the Lightning. Like you can play Third Strike with Kai and just like rip out Ride the Lightning. I'm intrigued about Kai in the context of some of these system changes. Again, bear with me as I pull up move names because I never remember move. Dire Eclat was, yeah, that's the one I thought it was. 2 and 4S. The recovery of Dire Eclat has been decreased, making it easier to buffer after normal moves. Now easy to fall up in the corner. Why would Dire Eclat recovery decreasing make it easier to buffer Dire Eclat? Do they mean it's safer to buffer Dire Eclat? That's fine. What was Dire Eclat on block was -11 to -9. Okay, so yeah, they're making Dire Eclat safer. The usage restriction on stun edge has been revised, and the recovery of air stun edge is decreased, further improving usage restriction. So, as in to say how many stun edges he can have on the screen at a time? I imagine that's what that means. It is now possible to continue your offense after your opponent blocks Dragon Install. After activation, the movement speed of his forward movement, dash are increased, improving his neutral game. Okay, so they're making Dragon Install safer and better. I wonder, is it going to be plus on block after? Is Dragon Install about to become V-trigger activation? Where you block string into Dragon Install and then you get plus frames? Because that would be super interesting and really would change the dynamic for Kai. 2K decreased pushback. I feel like this is going to be kind of universal because it sounds like they want for 2Ks to leave them closer so that after the counter hit. 6K is special cancelable. That's big. 6K right now, I feel like was basically a stagger normal. You tried to stick out 6K, and if it landed, you were plus on block, and that was like one of the best ways that you got to steal back plus frames as Kai. So making that special cancelable as well. I don't imagine, if it's hit confirmable, that's big. Otherwise, it's going to be the kind of thing where like it's a stagger, right? You either have the plus frames or you special cancel into some kind of move. Maybe it's just going to be valuable for like combo filler, like 2K lands on counter hit into 6K into special move, and then you get stuff like that. Maybe that's the goal here. Close slash, reduced recovery. Okay, close slash is better on block. Far slash, reduced frontal hurt box. Far slash is safer. Same for crouch, same for 2S. Okay, so far slash and 2S have less hurt box, so they're going to function as better pokes. That's great for him. JP, same change. JK, same change. So easier juggles off of JP and JK. JS, reduced frontal hurt box. It seems like it's going to be an in general thing for him, that these slashes are going to be a little bit safer hurt box wise. JH launches opponent higher. Okay. JH is going to be better combo filler. JD jump canceled and air dash canceled. Can be special canceled. Launches the opponent on grounded hit. Launches the opponent higher. Can be canceled into a finishing blow during a homing jump. Okay. So, there's a lot to take in here. 1. JD being jump cancelable or air dash cancelable means that either as combo filler, like in an air combo, if you can land JD, you get to use your double jump or your air dash and continue going, which is really cool. You can also special cancel it, which means like JD into air DP or JD into air fireball, which also gives you more opportunities to get shock state. Launches opponent on grounded hit is huge. A lot of Kais would use JD as sort of this weird delay-y overhead on a jump in that would catch people guessing. So if that's now going to launch, that makes JD as a jump in normal super valuable. And then finishing blow during homing jump, that's to do with full charge 5D which I guess he couldn't do JD after full charge 5D and get the Ender for 5D. So that's good. Better frame advantage after landing a ground throw. Launches opponent lower with decreased horizontal distance. Okay, so I imagine that's for if you want to do RC follow-ups. It makes for a different combo situation. Shock state ends when Kai takes damage. I feel like, did it not do that? Huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't see on Dust Loop that Shock State went away if Kai blocked or anything. That's rough for him, but adding counterplay in general is always good, and two, taken in combination with these system mechanic changes, it just further incentivizes finding a smart spot to mash 5P or 2P or 5K or what have you. Because now, on top of getting these counter hit changes, you also remove Shock State. All versions of Stun Edge. Usage restriction is now removed after a set amount of time passes. So, again, the only way that I can really read into that is that it's talking about how long before you can throw a second fireball. And it sounds like, rather than being, another Stun Edge is on the screen, it is instead that, after a fixed amount of time, you can throw another one. So maybe he can get 2 Stun Edges on the screen at the same time. I'm not totally sure. Reduce recovery on air fireball, that's good. Charge Stun Edge. Usage restriction, same thing as regular Stun Edge. Okay. Food Arc, decreased attack level of initial half of active frame. So you are incentivized to hit it meaty. I'm looking at it to see. And reduced recovery. So it's safer. It sounds like they're pushing you to use the back half of it more. Vapor Thrust, expanded lower hurt box, can no longer be RC'd. That's the same DP change that Sol had. When blocked midair. Okay, all of the same generic DP changes that Sol had. So it sounds like they're trying to push that DPs interact in a certain way, which is one, that you can't RC them through Gold Burst, which again was a weird thing that I didn't know, happened. But this, when blocked midair, the opponent lands more quickly before. So I had thought maybe the intention was that like you chicken block it and then you land, but I'm recalling that when you block a DP in the air, one of the things was like it pushes you really far away, right? So I don't know. I feel like now I need to see this one in action. There, Eclat. That's 214S. Reduced recovery. Okay, that's going to be safer. How safe is it going to be? Is an interesting is really the question for me. Is it going to be, if it's like -4 or something, -5, and you space it right, and it's like, all right, you're safe, you're okay, then like that's good. Ride the Lightning, increase the attack startup. Did you increase it enough that we're not going to be able to do like 2S or 5H immediately into Ride the Lightning? Is a lot of the single hit confirm stuff going to go away because of this? Or is it all still going to work? That's really what I want to see. I think that was something that I really liked in watching Kai's play. I think it was something that was like kind of unique to him. So hopefully that is not the case. Hopefully it still works that way, and this is just to do with weakening it as a reversal. Especially in a character who already had a reversal. And then finally, Dragon Install. Increase movement speed of forward movement, back movement, and dash, so he gets faster in Dragon Install. Decreased recovery. Oh, Dragon Install was only -5 on block. So depending on how much we've decreased it, even if we're like 0, then that's probably really good for him. Decreased horizontal blowback distance. So if it connects, like if the shockwave hits, then you maybe get a combo after? Or is this just about it seems like these changes might just be about ensuring that you get to take another turn after you pop Dragon Install, and you strengthen the neutral. So let's consider Kai's changes. 2k decrease knockback change is not dissimilar to what we've seen. I immediately, like now that we've seen it on 2 characters, I think we're going to see that across the board. I think 2k decrease knockback is probably a conscious decision being made by way of giving you more options after the counter hit, punch, and kick normal change. His slash normals are safer, like across the board, safer in the sense that their hurt box is better for him, which is great. That makes him, function much better in that mid range. Has the same jumping normal changes. JD is super interesting. It's going to open up. It might open up pressure opportunities. It's definitely going to open up combo opportunities. Shock State having counterplay is good for the other player, and once again feeds back into this idea that like you want to mash out that 5p, 2p in these smart places because you're going to get so much more out of it. And Dragon Install change makes it be in the game. So Kai, much less drastically changed. It seems like they're largely just strengthening his mid-range play. I didn't comment on the stun edge thing because mostly I really need to see it in action to understand exactly what they mean. It's hard to quantify that change, but the slash changes, the fireball changes, all of these things are just generally strengthening him outside of like range 1, range 2, which is actually super interesting in the context of the system changes, right? Because that's a range where you're not mashing 5p, 2p, all of these new counter hit normals, which means that Kai is going to get to function much stronger outside of that range where you're worried about getting counter hit. So Kai, living at the tip of the sword and outside allows him to sort of circumvent some of these system mechanic changes that Soul really leaned into. It seems like Kai is really leaning into not having to engage in that area at all. So that's interesting. I think overall buffs, not very drastic buffs. I don't know that he necessarily needed more. I feel like Kai was in a pretty decent place in terms of character strength. I feel like the top tier of this game was like very bulky in terms of the amount of power that they had. But I feel like Kai was perfectly valid as a character. His weaknesses were overwhelmingly just that like he didn't have as much cheap stuff as the rest of the top tier did. But if the system mechanic changes are incentivizing mashing through things, and we weaken the top tier's cheap stuff and push things around, Kai being able to live outside of that range ends up really valuable. The properties of horizontal and vertical dolphin vary when the button is held. Pull up her on Dust Loop. Although they are straightforward lunge attacks, now in addition to their prior uses, Mei has more options to change the movement distance or active frame. So Dolphin. I'm scrolling down just so I can. Yeah. Back towards Dolphin and down up Dolphin. That's what I thought they were. I'm very curious what that means. Is that like you hold it and she goes farther? Or is that like, I guess, how does it compare to the initial? In fact, I'm going to scroll right down to it. Movement speed increases when the button is held. No longer hits opponent when more than a set distance apart. Reduce recovery on hit. Increase speed of descent after hitting the opponent. Active frames. Okay, so for horizontal, active frames increase when the button is held down. Maintains momentum after landing on whiff. That's interesting. Less damage. If you hold it, it's active for longer, so it's not necessarily that it like travels farther. I guess it just keeps going is what it sounds like. But maintaining momentum on whiff means that if you outspace horizontal dolphin, Mei is going to slide into you, which makes for interesting counterplay if you can pick the right spot on the ground. Easier said than done. Vertical dolphin movement speed increases so she can go up faster. That's probably less important, except that like using it as a feint, like you go up in the air and now they have to contend with your air options. I don't know. 5P reduced startup. That falls in line with the same for 5K. There's the same generic 2K change that we're seeing from everybody. Ooh, 3K, the opponent can now recover. 3K isn't a hard knockdown anymore? Let me scroll down and make sure 3K is what I thought it was. Yeah. Yeah, 3K is not a hard knockdown. That's interesting. Why? Why remove the hard knockdown on 3K? Is it because they want to make now guessing between the recovery timing gives the opponent more opportunities to engage with mashing out 5P, 5K counter poking and get more chances to break out of May's offense? That's the point. 5K reduced startup, same thing. So all of these P and K changes outside of 3K and 6P are all to do with coinciding with the system mechanic changes. 6P, adjusted animation of opponent character on hit. That's something I would need to see. I don't know if it's just an animation difference or if it's... No, it has to just be an animation difference because they would have said that the spacing was different if it was that. Standing heavy, decreased damage, expanded front hurt box. So 5H is nerfed. 5H is easier to whiff punish. That's good. That move was annoying. 2S launches opponent lower. So less juggle opportunities off of 2H? Because I imagine over time you're going to get less out of it. I don't know. 6H decreased damage. That's good. That was a big starter. Sweep, expanded hitbox and hurtbox. So that's I feel like that's probably not dissimilar to what we saw with the the Sol change, where no, that's different. The Sol change was that it pushed farther away. This is just making the move bigger altogether. Okay. The same JP and JK changes. J2H increased recovery. So she got the chip treatment, and her dive kick is worse. Wonderful and dynamic. So this is the reversal change that we've seen all around as well. These reversal options are getting weaker. Okay. Very, very little changed about May. May's changes, roughly half of these are just to do with the system mechanic changes or changes built around the system mechanic. 5P, 5K, 2K, all that. Reduced damage and nerfs to a lot of her best party starter normals in her H's. 3K losing hard knockdown is rough for her, and I imagine, again, is to coincide with trying to give people more opportunities to intelligently use punch and kick strength normals. The same generic air normal changes, other than J2H getting nerfed. So this is a lot of system mechanic changes, nerfs, and then the only buffs are that she can now change the way Dolphin works. But even horizontal Dolphin, maintaining momentum on whiff means that if you space yourself properly, she is going to get smoked. So I think all around, this is a nerf for May. We're going to have to see how the system mechanics play out, because obviously if the system mechanics end up super valuable, then, she'll also get the benefits of these counter hit changes to punch and kick normals. So that might end up more valuable for her than not. But just taken on its own, this is overwhelmingly changes to make her weaker. Axel. I barely know how Axel works. I just know I played I played Zato. Didn't like this matchup. Let's take a look. Winter Mantis can now be used in combos. I'm sorry? Okay, so the command grab can be treated like a hit grab and fit into combos. In spots where Sickle Flash won't connect, you can use Winter Mantis. Okay, so that's to give him just more consistent combo opportunities, I guess. In the corner, 6K And Rainwater can be used more easily. Rainwater is, okay, that's 214S, goes to air. What does a 6K look like? I actually forget. Okay, the anti-airs. Okay, so they're giving him more ability to use some of his other tools as combo filler, particularly in the corner. In addition to improving the utility of pokes like 2S and Far Slash's ability to fight from mid-range has also been strengthened by adjusting the attack startup of Aerial Snail. Snail 2148. Okay. Making it easier to connect after JS. So a lot of this seems like it's giving him more combo opportunity and making him less of a poke monster, which I think is valid. I feel like his combos being so situational was kind of rough. 2P expanded frontal hurtbox. That's any change to 2P, 5P, any changes like that is going to be good. So better front hitbox, more likely to connect, more likely to counter hit, more likely to get a combo. 6P launches opponent on grounded hit, launches them higher with decreased horizontal blowback. So 6P is a better starter. Probably to coincide with the system mechanic changes where I don't know if he was a character. I'm pretty sure he wasn't. In fact, let me check his combos thing real quick. I'm pretty sure he probably could not link into 6P or Gatling into 6P. Oh no, he could. 2K, 5K, 6P. Huh, okay. This guide really only lists it as weird combo fill. Maybe I don't remember what his 6 is like. Ah, okay. Will whiff on a close grounded hit. Okay, so all right. So they're just tweaking the way that you use 6. 2K decreased knockback, same change. 6K added wall bounce effect, launches opponent lower. So they comment on this. 6K and Rainwater were specifically changed to make them function easier in combos. Close slash, reduced recovery. Oh. By how much? That's only -4 now. Far slash, reduced recovery, expanded frontal hurtbox, and reduced hitbox. Far slash is better? Okay. 6H, increased knockback. I feel like they commented on that one. Yeah. Oh, that's his overhead? Okay. Increased knockback. Does that mean, does increased knockback mean that they're pushed back farther, or is that more hit stop? We'll have to see. JP, JK, same changes. JD, reduced hit hurtbox. Winter Mantis can now hit opponents while they're taking damage. No longer hits opponent when more than a set distance apart. Okay. So, yeah, they turned it, they gave it the ability to function as a hit grab. But it only connects within a certain range on the screen. Oh my god, the Rainwater changes are kind of drastic. Reduced base scaling, depletes more risk, increased combo scaling, reduced combo scaling on combos that start with Rainwater, more wall break, less affected by blowback scaling, launches higher. So, a worse starter, but a better combo filler. So they have pushed Rainwater to be used as combo fill a little bit more. Your damage off of Rainwater off rip is worse, probably because of the difference to the hitbox and the difference to the launch. They wanted to weaken it as a combo starter, I guess. Ah, Axle Bomber goes from 623 to 236. Launches opponent less than previously when used multiple times in a combo. Why that? Huh. He has a 236H, right? Oh. Okay, so is that easier to Tiger Knee it now? Because I was going to say they had the system change that they highlight earlier of prioritizing grounded versus aerial moves, but the Axel doesn't appear to have just a 2-3-6 on the ground. He has half circle forward. He has 4-1-2-3-6 H command grab, and then double quarter circle overdrive. So yeah, I guess you can Tiger Knee it. But if you try to Tiger Knee it and you do it twice, we'll have to see. It's an easier input. And then Sickle Storm, the same reversal change. Okay, so it looks like for Axel, overwhelmingly, changes, making his 2P stronger, once again, to fit in the system mechanic. I'm curious what the 6P changes are. Again, strengthening slash normals and really opening up the combo game for him a lot is what it seems like a lot of these changes are. So they're trying to give him more damage, more opportunities to cash out for damage, more opportunities to play for damage in the corner, which I guess makes sense. This one's going to be kind of situational for me. I know it is definitely all buffs. I am simply wondering the effectiveness of these. How much does it change him in the context of the game, right? Curious to see. But overall, definitely buffs. My thing is, I don't like to try to judge for characters that I am less familiar with, that I don't play, that I don't get to play against a lot. I try not to make snap judgments about whether they needed the changes in this way. Like, I couldn't speak to what Axel needed to become more competitive. But, as a defensive character, strengthening light level counter pokes is going to be good for him. And they know this because they buffed his 2P, so 2P as your Abare tool is going to be really good. And they're giving him more abilities to cash out damage, which in general in this game is good because the less opportunities your opponent gets to reset things back to neutral and swing on you wildly, the better. So it might not be what he needed, but it's certainly going to work. Chip. Chip's biggest strength is his amount of options. Adjustments to emphasize this. The attack startup of Senshu has been reduced, strengthening it as a mix-up tool. One is Senshu. Oh. It's the kick option off of the Rekka. So the overhead comes out faster? Aerial Alpha Blade could be followed up when it lands. Gamma Blade, in addition to being more rewarding due to its increase in options, is now more difficult to counter. Okay, so, even just reading that, it sounds like they're understanding that as a rushdowny character that is trying to overwhelm you, he's already really living in that spot. Chip was always a gnat, right? Like GNAT. He was always a fly, where you'd bug the hell out of you, he's all over the place, and then you clip him once, and he's damn near dead. And with them empowering light level counter hits, that is inherently more dangerous for Chip. Because suddenly now, you don't need a big anti-air, or a big this or a big that. You just find the right spot, connect with a counter hit 5P or 2P, and he's dead. So they've understood this, and they're adjusting accordingly to try to let him continue to function. Not dissimilar to what I assume they were doing with Saul, where they're trying to ensure that he can still live in his pocket of what he's supposed to do in the new system mechanic. 2K decreased knockback, same change. Close slash reduced recovery on close slash. What was the frame advantage on close slash? No. Close slash was -2 on block. So is it going to be 0? Are they giving him the Nago treatment where close slash is going to work better? Overwhelmingly, what's interesting about this is we're seeing, a lot of these range 0 characters getting this close slash reduced recovery change. where it seems like they're trying to push more characters to be able to do something like what Nago does, where he has this really strong close slash, and you're so overwhelmed by the strength of it. It's not unlike Dictator Psycho Axe, right? Where it's like you have frame advantage, and you're afraid enough of the legitimacy of that frame advantage that you're able to cheat out these longer limbs or these longer normals to try to chain more pressure. So you get close slash, which isn't, technically real necessarily, but the threat of the frame trap keeps you honest. Now, mashing out is that much more valuable because of the counterpoke changes on punches and kicks. So more characters getting that means that type of RPS is going to be much more valuable. / reduced hurt box during attack startup. Okay, so / is going to be easier to stick out. The same JP and JK changes that we've seen everywhere. Okay. JP and JK changes are damn near universe. Alpha Blade diagonal. No longer hits opponent when more than a set distance apart. Okay, so it's not going to clip on the ground in a weird spot. You have to place it better. Aerial horizontal Alpha Blade. How does Dust Loop arrange this? Oh, literally all in the same. Aerial Alpha Blade no longer hits more than a set distance apart. Collision detection now activates sooner. That's interesting. I wonder what collision detection activates sooner means. Is that like it's going to better understand when you've connected with the opponent to change your own momentum so that you can stay a certain fixed relative angle? Air diagonal Alpha Blade. Chip lands a greater distance forward than before. Decreased recovery, no longer hits opponent when one set depletes more risk level, increased combo scaling, more wall break value, launches opponent higher on grounded hit. Okay. So decreased recovery means that it is going to be safer. I don't necessarily know that it's, safer on block might still mean punishable. It could also just mean that, like, if it whiffs, you get to move faster. Landing a greater distance forward than before is interesting. More risk, increased combo scaling. So these are usually about weakening, combo fill tools that have been really strong. Launches opponent higher on grounded hit, though, is interesting. So was this the kind of move where you could get away with, like, a jump in normal into air Alpha Blade, and now that's going to be a starter? Like, is like JK into air Alpha Blade going to be a starter? I don't know how commonly that was used before. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to be curious to get my hands on that one and really understand the context of those changes, because there's a lot that's happening here, and I find myself wondering, like, are they treating it like a dive kick? Are they treating it like a launcher? Are they treating it like combo filler? Is it going to be the kind of thing where you do like close slash jump cancel into, Tiger Knee air Alpha Blade? And no, you're not even going to be able to do that because they changed the input priority. You won't get air Alpha Blade. Not if you Tiger Knee it, at least. Beta Blade, these are the same DP changes. Gamma Blade is Shadow Clone. Launches opponent higher on grounded hit. Launches opponent lower with decreased towards. Okay, so on a grounded hit, it bounces them higher. On a juggle, it bounces them less. Increased combo scaling, more wall break, increased tumble duration, launches opponent less than previously when used multiple times in the combo. So this is like another one of those tweaking combo fill type of stuff. Which one is... Oh, Senshu is the overhead. So that's the flip kick option out of the Rekka. Reduced startup, reduced recovery. How much reduced recovery? It's minus 16 on block right now. So, I mean, you're not going to make it safe. There's no way you're making a fast overhead safe. There's absolutely no way. I'm really going to need to see the frame data on that one when it comes out. Increased movement speed, so it also travels faster. Creates less distance with opponent on hit in the corner. So you stay closer when it lands on the corner. Okay. Opponent can now recover after landing. Oh, did it hard knockdown? Big gap can punish with an air or condition enough to respect your failure. Incredibly unsafe on block. Yeah, I don't even see anything about a hard knockdown. I literally didn't realize. Reduced combo blowback scaling on combos with that as a starter. Okay, so it's a weaker starter because they've boosted the strength of the move. Changed the super input from punches to kick. Or from kicks to punches. Why is that? What overlaps on 236K? Huh. Is that so that you don't have issues with input overlap with Alpha Blade? I don't understand why you changed that input. Oh, or I get it. Because Alpha Blade horizontal, it's that they want you to be able to early cancel horizontal Alpha Blade. So you double up 236P, 236P. That's what that's about. I wonder how valuable that ends up being. I know they specifically commented that the nature of those changes is so you can cancel the move before it comes out. But I wonder how valuable that ends up being for him. Is this going to be the kind of thing where, like, do you get weird whiff punishes? Is it going to be like 236P, 236P, and you get like some crazy whiff punish? That'd be dope. I would love to see that. Now I want to see that. That's all I want to see, is somebody doing a dope whiff punish like that. But yeah, overall, I mean, chip changes are good. I don't fully understand some of these. It seems like it's overwhelmingly about changing the way that his different moves interact as combo start versus combo filler. And the buff to the overhead flip kick is really interesting. And I really need to see, it's not enough just to say reduced startup and recovery, right? Because that could mean anything. It could still be unsafe on block and still be reactable on startup. I don't know. So we're going to have to see. Potemkin. So Potemkin changes. Garuda impact is easier to follow up when near the corner, even on aerial hit, making punishing the opponent's backdash more rewarding. Okay, that's huge. You already, like, Garuda impact catching backdash happened so often. Getting the ability to follow up off of it is gigantic. Gigantor Kai. Okay, that's Aegis. Used to function as both an invincible move and a way to maintain pressure. It no longer has invincibility, but is a better offensive pressure tool. It now works in a block string after 6K, opening up a high-low mix with his dust or sweep, or going for guard pressure with... Whoa! So they actually made it Aegis. It's literally Aegis now. It's literally Aegis Reflector. 6K Aegis Reflector into a high-low. They gave Potemkin a 50-50. Well, another 50-50. A high-low 50-50. 5K reduced frontal hurt box, so 5K is a better counter poke. Makes more sense because of the counter hit changes. 2K decreased knockback, that seems universal. 2S reduced frontal hurt box, it's a better counter poke. 5H reduced frontal hurt box, better counter poke. 6H reduced frontal hurt box, reduced blowback distance, can no longer recover after landing on counter hit. Oh. Counter hit 6H will hard knockdown. Which one is his 6H? Oh. That's big. So if 6H lands counter hit and you go into Hammerfall, which was already comparatively common, you used Hammerfall for movement, you're gonna get Oki, I assume, off the hard knockdown. That's huge. That's gonna be really big for him. JP and JK changes make sense. Potemkin Buster, reduced frontal hurt box. Harder to whiff punish Potemkin Buster? Mega Fists have less damage. That's rough. Well, actually, I was going to say that's rough because those came out as, like, pokes functionally sometimes. But Mega Fist into Red RC was a common starter for him, and now Red RC Shockwave doesn't have damage scaling. So this might be a change to compensate for the fact that without the damage scaling that Red RC Shockwave applies, Mega Fist was too good of a starter, so they're reducing the damage. That's my thinking. Hammerfall. Hammerfall can after a counter hit Hammerfall, that's another hard knockdown. Okay. Damn, Potemkin. Okay. On counter hit. So is that a whiff punisher, or is that just about like if you bulldoze through neutral in this way, that it ends up more valid? Flick, reduce base scaling, depletes less risk level. Okay, so it's better combo filler. Now causes less wall break. Yeah, it's better combo filler, I guess. Garuda impact, less damage, removed wall bounce, added tumble. I don't necessarily know what tumble means, but it reads above that the intent of this change is that when you catch people backdashing, that it's going to make it easier for you to follow up after. Gigantic Kai, projectile now appears even if the strike lands. Okay, so Aegis always comes out. Removed invincibility, so it's not a reversal. Increased duration of tension penalty. That makes sense. It's a more valuable offensive tool now, so you shouldn't build meter as much during it. Reduced startup, it comes out faster. Reduced recovery, you can operate faster. Expanded hitbox, no longer gains tension when the strike hit lands. No longer triggers wall break when it lands. Decelerates when close to the corner. That's a nice one. So all in all, this change is about making this more valuable as like you spend the 50 tension and now you get to mix them up. And with it decelerating when it's close to the corner, that makes it much more valuable to use in the corner because the mirror is going to stay on top of him. So for Potemkin, all in all, I mean, these are buffs, and these are some really interesting buffs. He's got the same system mechanic changes, or system mechanic facing changes around 5k and 2k. These reduced hurt boxes are really interesting. I actually wonder if they're specifically to make it easier for him to counterpoke in a system where people are more likely to stick out 5p, 2p, stuff like that. He has 2 different new hard knockdown opportunities, which will lead for him to be able to cycle back into strike throw mix around Garuda Impact versus Potemkin Buster. And Garuda Impact is a better starter. This is all really good for Potemkin. I actually think these are really great changes for Potemkin. And that's before even talking about the fact that, you know, Aegis Reflector is properly Aegis Reflector now. I think Potemkin got hella buffed. Way to go, Potemkin players. Y'all are doing okay. Okay, Faust changes. Let's get out of the way up front. Faust is bleeding. Faust, let's take a minute to talk about Faust, actually. Faust, historically, in these titles, I feel like the strength of his items were really a huge part of it. And, you know, there was the RNG element to it, but it felt like over time, Faust players could optimize around certain items and understand, you know, it was so much about recognizing the item you got and immediately pivoting to a particular attempt or a particular approach to the game around that item. I feel like a lot of his items in this game don't have a really drastic impact, and it feels like there's only like 1 or 2 of them that the opponent even cares to interact with, which is you want the trumpet, and otherwise like you largely don't care. I feel like personally, like having played against Faust, like if it's the trumpet, I play for the trumpet. If it's not, the only other one I worry about is the little minion, where I just don't want to poke the minion. Otherwise, like so many of them just feel like they're the same thing that I don't really care about. And maybe I'm not approaching Faust right. Like I'm not the best Strive player. I'm far from the best Strive player. I'm a damn near bad Strive player. But it just it didn't feel, it never really felt daunting. So let's take a look at what they're giving Faust. With buffed to 5k and far slash, Faust can now take advantage during grounded neutral more easily. In addition, mini Faust attack more quickly to prevent the opponent's approach, making it easier to use what could this be to throw item. Okay. 5k and far slash are better. 5k being better coincides with the system mechanic changes of punch and kick normals, which is good and gives him more combo opportunities. Mini Faust attacking better means that when Mini Faust comes out, it's more likely for Faust to cycle back and get more items, which is good because that's like the mini game that you want to play to Faust. The decrease to the attack startup of P and K Scarecrow make them more viable as surprise attacks. They can also be better used in tandem with items as the attack begins once the button is released. Faust's position after bone-crushing excitement cinematic has been adjusted, making it easier to trigger a wall break. So, better neutral buttons. Mini Faust lets him get back into the item game easier. Scarecrow exists. In fact, Scarecrow was a move that just didn't come out super often. Like you just didn't see Scarecrow super often. But okay, so P and K are specifically the fake cross-up versions. Huh. Well, they're not. Yeah, they turn to face Faust, so it doesn't matter. And the position after super. 6P launches higher. Better combo opportunities, I guess. 5k expanded lower hitbox, so 5k hitting lower. How bad was 5k's lower hitbox? Oh god. Yeah, I've never paid attention to that. As tall as Faust is, yeah, that needs to hit lower. I'm sure that whiffed over like half the crouchers in the cast. 2k comes out faster. That's good. His 2k was really good. How much faster? If that turns into like a 5 frame or a 6 frame? Is 5 frame or is 6 frame the sort of generic? Yeah, 5 frame. Imagine if 2k became a 5 frame. That would be kind of crazy. Close slash reduced recovery. What is this close slash? -4 on block. Probably a very similar change where we're trying to make that easier for the stagger pressure on close slash. Far slash, reduced recovery, reduced frontal hurtbox. So just a generic buff to far slash. 2SS. So that's the second hit specifically. Launches opponent on grounded hit, launches opponent higher. So you use 2SS as a launcher, a party starter. Standing H follow-up can no longer after landing on counter hit. I actually forget what this move even looks like. That's how little of Faust I've seen, but whatever. Another hard knockdown. 6H gets a stagger. What is that? What does that look like? I need to see what that looks like. It's hard to parse this. JP and JK changes. Generic. J2K has more damage. So that's the dive kick. JH, less frontal hurtbox. That's good as an air-to-air. Mix. You can control him faster. Blowback direction now matches the direction Faust is facing. The final hit during the active frames has the same properties regardless of the number of hits. So that's good. Just generally makes it, better combo filler in more use cases, or I guess a better gimmicky thing in more use cases. Banana Peel can no longer hit multiple characters at the same time. I wonder how it decides who it hits first then. Maybe it prioritizes opponent. The Afro Explosion causes Guard Crush. Oh. That's actually interesting. So, oh my god. that's kind of, so we've given him, if you are able to time your offense around when the Afro explodes, you'll get to steal more turns. So that's really good. That's a really interesting thing. Meteor's ground bounce. So Meteor's more valuable. Mini Faust. Hitbox now activates directly after coming into contact with the opponent or being attacked. Oh. So Mini Faust had the little sort of rage thing that he went through, but it's not going to anymore. Oh my god. It's literally not it. He's just gonna start swinging. Okay. Scarecrow only stays, it now only charges if you use the same button, and P and K are higher launchers and come out faster. Okay, that's good. That's probably valuable for him because it makes the gimmick of it work a little bit better. And it's another one of those things where, you know, it's a spot where counter poking was valuable, but you don't want to get, like, counter pokes are much stronger now. So you need to empower the option that risks counter poke, or there's no reason to use it. Thrust reduced frontal hurtbox. Love. One is love. Oh, air. That's air fireball. Increased damage of initial hit. Projectile now appears even when the room is Roman cancel at an earlier part. Oh, interesting. So you could, like, love PRC, and then the fireball still comes out. That's interesting. Okay. And then just a tweak to the super to change the spacing on it. It sounds like it was specifically in order to make wall break stuff happen more likely. Okay, so Faust overall, better frame data. The generic system mechanic changes are pretty good. His 2K was already really good. 2K with the counter hit changes end up super valuable. He has a new launcher. That's interesting. Whatever the stagger effect on 6H is, I need to see. A lot of these we just need to see in action, but guard break or guard crush on the Afro exploding and Mini Faust coming out off rip are actually really interesting. They've buffed some of those items. Meteors was always, you know, a good item to get, right? They had to respect it. Now it has a ground bounce on hit. Mix is better. Scarecrow's better. It seems as though a lot of these changes actually make it easier for Faust to be covered by something he has done in order to get another item toss. So it's going to be more of these cyclical interactions where, like, if Mini Faust comes out, Mini Faust is going to do a much better job of protecting you while you stick out another item. Afro Guard Crush means that you get opportunities, and suddenly Afro is scary even on block. Scarecrow changes, I really need to see. I've simply not played enough Faust to really know what the big deal for this is. So all in all, these are buffs. Part of the nature of the beast for Faust, right, is he's RNG dependent, right? Like you could sincerely go a whole match and not get Mini Faust. So this change could really not matter for you. So I feel like you need to value more the normal changes that they made. So what is the stagger on 6.8? How useful is this 2SS change with the launcher? How useful is 5H counter hit causing a hard knockdown? Does that mean that you get like 5H follow up hard knockdown, get the free item? Like, is that the use case here? It's buffs, but with Faust in particular, I feel like you really need to see what this means. Like, what does it look like in the context of the game? And a lot of these changes are not going to be quantifiable, if only because they're not deterministic. Anything related to items isn't deterministic. Milia. So Milia, I feel like, was a strong character in theory. You know, she had great mobility. She had good mix-up options. The problem that Milia had was Milia had to do to you in 5 or 6 hits what most of the cast, most of the highest tier characters in the cast could do in 2. And so there are certain matchups where I feel like, Milia reset back to neutral because she keeps cycling this offense that leads to very little damage. And resetting back to neutral was to her detriment, and their opponent got so many chances to reset back to neutral. And I'm immediately fearful of, in the system mechanic changes, obviously, like, her mix-up game was really strong. People weren't mashing 5P through it. They were, spending YRC or burst to try to reset back to neutral, or just blocking properly. But, how is she changed in the face of the fact that, counterpokes are better? Milia's grounded neutral game has improved due to increased range and decreased startup of far slash. Changes to JD, Capel, whatever Capel is. Oh, Capel is arrows, the command jump. Sure. And other moves make for more opportunities to trip the opponent up and deal damage after going on the offensive with JH during air dash. Okay. So making follow-ups from JH more valuable. Her O-key after knocking the opponent down has improved due to decrease in recovery of H top. Oh, that's pinwheel. Okay. So, altogether, better neutral poke and far slash, strengthened her mix-up game because they've empowered JD and the command jump, and decreased H hair disc. It decreased H disc so that she gets better Oki after it. That's, even at the top level, that's all really good. 2P reduced startup, better counterpoke. 2K reduced knockback, reduced upper hurtbox. Again, the reduced knockback on 2K, I feel like, has been in absolutely every character, except, interestingly, I don't think Faust had it. Close slash, reduced recovery, changed the on-hit effect of the second hit. I would need to see what that was. Expanded frontal hitbox and hurtbox and reduced startup of far slash. So far slash is meant to be used as more of a poke, but they added counterplay. Well, it didn't even add counterplay. I'm sure the hurtbox expanded in tandem with the hitbox. Standing H reduced hurtbox. That one's interesting. So standing H is safer. Which one is? Oh. Reduced frontal hurtbox. Interesting. Okay, JP and JK changes are the same generic changes. JS, reduced frontal hurtbox. Now we get to the meat of what they were talking about. JD. Scrolling over on Dustloop so I can look at it. Oh, I feel like I never saw this move. JD, expanded frontal hitbox. Reduced hurtbox. Now launches opponent on grounded hit. So that's what they were talking about. The fact that it's now a launcher means that you do like JH on your jump in, Gatling to JD. The second overhead is a threat, and it's a launch starter. Not bad. Yeah, I mean, giving her more options in her Oki game that are more immediately accessible as part of layer 1. Ground throw, increased recovery. Oh, so she gets less off of landing a ground throw? That's interesting. Wow. That's kind of surprising. Bad Moon, final hit launches opponent higher with decreased horizontal blowback. So, easier to follow up with juggles off of Bad Moon. Turbo Fall. Is that the one that was like the air command grabby looking thing? The dive kick, grab, whatever. Reduced recovery, whatever. 12 landing frames, so there's less of it. All versions of top have reduced recovery. Hitbox no longer disappears when Milia blocks. Oh. That's big. So if you stick out top and you trade, top is still going to hit. So if you cheat out an H disc, you win out on the trade. That's going to be interesting. That's such a minor thing that isn't sort of quantifiable, but is going to have a huge impact on the feel of the matchup. Where suddenly these spots where you felt secure sticking out like a 6P or something, now you can't do that. That's interesting. Increased knockback on /top. So that becomes the check. You do like S disc to slowly condition them. If they try to counterpoke, it knocks them back. You reset to neutral. That I don't know. That's probably not the use case. Iron Savior. Okay, that's Stun Dipper. Decreased blowback distance, expanded frontal hitbox, so it hits farther in front and pushes them away less. So I don't know if that's meant to be like a block string tool or a neutral tool. I mean, it was already punishable on block, versus just making it function better as combo fill. Lust Shaker, that's Swiss cheese. Fixed a bug where the final hit would not cause blowback, so quality of life change. Capel, changed properties from strike to projectile, reduced recovery, affected by momentum, increased damage, expanded hitbox. The significance of it being a projectile, what does that mean? What is the significance of that? That's a change that I'm going to need to see someone break open for me to fully comprehend. It read above it sounds like it's meant to function. Is it just so that it interacts differently with people who have like, oh, because it's a projectile, does that mean it won't trigger head invuln, so it'll beat 6Ps? Because 6Ps will have head invuln. I don't know if gear treats it as head invuln like as a property, or if it's just upper body invuln. But I wonder, maybe that's what that means. And then Winger, her reversal super, increased startup, increased recovery, the same generic changes. Okay, so for her, Milia's changes overall. Reduced startup on disc is interesting. Disc staying, even if she trades, is super interesting because it means that it's much less likely. I talked about the difficulty that she's going to have in a system that further incentivizes light counterpokes. The fact that disc is going to stick around is super helpful for that. The faster recovery of H-disc means that her Oki game opens up a ton. And the changes to JD are super interesting. If I'm right about what Capel is supposed to do, and Capel being coded as a projectile rather than a strike means that it beats 6P, that means that they've added 2 layers to what happens after JH, because it could be JH land into stuff, JH double jumps, JHJD as the high option, which is a launch starter, or JH Capel, which is the check that blows up 6Ps after. So for her, I'm definitely going to need to see and confirm sort of the intent and the impact of some of these changes. But if I'm right about these, they've opened up her mix-up game. They've made it more accessible because her Oki game is going to be easier. And her ground game outside of that, with a better far slash, in theory should make for a stronger ground game and afford her the opportunity to get into range 0 and start doing stuff more. Or even just like far slash from farther away into disc, which is now safer because it's not going to go away if she trades after far slash to open stuff up. I think these are all really interesting buffs for her. I don't know if it necessarily, quote unquote, solves the quote unquote problem of how many hits she needs in order to actually kill you, but she has more options in order to get those hits, which all piles on the mental stack, right? So that's good for her in general. Okay. All right, my boy, Zato. Not a great Zato player, but love Zato. Let's take a look at these. When Eddie is summoned, Zato can take more time going on the offense due to reduced rate of meter consumption. Are you kidding me? Eddie gauge lasts longer? Wow. Increasing the deceleration of JD comes out makes it less likely for him to land, improving its utility as an overhead. You can trip up the opponent with difficult to react to strings from aerial attacks or 6H. So they changed how JD works so that it functions better as an overhead mix-up tool, which we'd already seen used a lot, so they're making that easier to string in. The decrease in combo blowback and other kinds of scaling makes it more rewarding to use That's a Lot in combos or strings, even if the drill hits multiple times. What the hell is That's a Lot? Oh, that's Eddy drill. Oh, they made it a better combo tool? It was already your best lockdown tool. That's insane. Unless they also changed its difference as a starter, but it would never be the starter because you lock them down and then you high-low them or mix them up, which means the drill would always hit second. That's kind of crazy. Okay, the Eddy difference, reduced meter depletion when not attacking. Okay, so it's easier to just have Eddy out but idle. Not as drastic as it read above, but still a surprising change. 6P adjusted animation of opponent character on hit. So what does that mean? Is that a change to the on-hit effect? Is that a change to the frame data? 2K, less knockback, less startup. Okay. So I had said earlier when I talked about the top-level system changes that, you know, I feel like Zato never really checked with 2K. He didn't check with his kick normals at all. That's not what they were for. So reducing the startup, what are we reducing it to? I don't even know if it's 6 frames. I don't think we use it, because why would we use it over 2P? I guess to poke at a different range. Close slash reduced recovery. Wow. Okay. So that's the same generic change we're seeing on a lot of close slashes, but it's another thing. It's already only -2 on block, so stagger pressure is going to be even better. Kind of nutty. 2S reduced frontal hurtbox. 2S is a better poke now? It was already super great. Standing H, more damage on standing H, less damage on 2H. I feel like standing H counter hit was already an absolutely gigantic starter, especially if you had Eddy. 2H doing less damage. I mean, it hurts. I mean, well, so it's fine. It was used as combo fill a lot, so it's going to overall reduce his combo damage, but it hurts as the anti-air starter because, you know, you land a counter hit anti-air 2H with Eddy out, and you're two-touching them. Easy. JP, active frames continue from the initial hit to the final hit. So that's because his JP was a bunch of hits. So they're making it better as an air-to-air poke. You do an early JP, the active frames stay out. It's much more likely to keep the combo going with a late Gatling cancel. So that's to coincide with the same JP change. JK launches higher. JH, the first half of active frames now launch opponent higher. Okay, so that reads to me like if you Gatling cancel into JH, like if you do JH as an air combo, it's going to work easier because you used it as a jump-in normal sometimes, but you're not going to hit with the first active frames on that, and it's not a launcher on grounded hit. So that's for juggle stuff. JD, increased deceleration during startup. Yeah, so it's easier to land JD as a late overhead. So like when you did JD as you were falling, when you turned into the like shadow monster, you stopped. This is making it so you stop faster. So more jump-in opportunities are going to be able to lead into the gimmicky JD overhead. Okay. Pierce, delayed the timing when Eddy gauge is depleted. Initial hit now launches opponent higher. Reduced attack startup of second hit. Whoa. So what I need to see is, does Pierce true combo into itself, or do you still have to, as Zato, bridge the gap between the first and second hit? If Pierce true combos into itself, that's absolutely massive. That's a lot. That's Eddy drill, decreased damage. All types of scaling are only applied once. Okay, so it does less damage, but it's not going to scale your combo as you do it. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense. Leap has less damage and a worse hurtbox, so a nerf to leap. Amorphous comes out slower, so it's a worse reversal, but the hitbox itself travels around the screen fast. So you can use Amorphous. Some people liked to use Amorphous to generate plus frames. So I think it's going to serve better to do that, but worse as a reversal. So, wow. Okay. Zato overall, I'm surprised at some of these changes. The leap nerf makes sense. The drill change when read at the top seems really strong, but when you read it in context here, it's actually more about changing the way it applies damage scaling, which makes sense. These air normal changes are super interesting. His pokes being better. All in all, I feel like this is helping him to function a little bit more as a mid-rangey character. It's buffing his neutral, right? Eddie just being out functions better. His slash and heavy slash pokes are better. And I need to see what this Pierce change looks like, because this Pierce change, it might just be that it's meant to make it function better as combo fill for like corner carry. Initial hit launches higher and the second hit comes out faster. So maybe it true carries if it's already a combo. But if Pierce can function on its own and like you don't need to intercede anymore, that would be absolutely crazy. So I think these are all in all buffs. He didn't need much. Zato was already really strong. They're buffing his neutral game independent of Eddie and making it easier to keep Eddie around. So all in all, definitely buffs, not particularly drastic changes. But when you think about it in the context of the system mechanics, he's another character where if you aren't playing Zato properly, you're going to get mashed on, and now getting mashed on leads to much more stuff. So, you know, this is going to separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to Zato players, I think. Ramlethal. The first thing I just saw was a buff, and I'm already intrigued. Ramlethal is really interesting to me, where she's this character that I feel like so many people talk about as like one of the best characters. You know, pre-Happy Chaos, she was supposed to be the best character in the game, right? But I felt like you didn't necessarily see her going super far in tournaments. And that's one of those, like, is it the player versus the character things? Are we overvaluing certain things about her that people aren't using as much in practice? Or is it just that we've not gotten to see a whole lot of international competition, and maybe if the game had had more international competition and we had seen a more representation, that Ram would have actually solidified at the top. Adjustment to the attack startup and recovery of 2S have improved its utility as a poke, as its lack of range compared to far S made it less useful previously. Yeah, okay, I just looked at 2S and I literally have never seen that normal before, so that makes sense. Ramlethal is now closer to the opponent after Dauro, which is the Rekka, I think. No, that's not the Rekka. What the fuck is this move? After hits on the ground, meaning she can continue her offense with close S depending on the spacing. Okay, so you land a ground chain into 623, and then you're close enough that you're in range 0 for close slash. Okay. The decreased height of I hate these move names. Okay, J214S. So that's the air thing. The decreased height makes it easier to use in neutral. Oh. So you can, I don't know if you could Tiger Knee it, because I'm not positive if you can do it on a back jump. It's the common limitation for these, but okay, you can use that closer to the ground. That's actually kind of crazy. And the damage distribution of Super Laser has been adjusted, making it deal more damage in combos to distinguish it from her reversal super. Okay. So none of these are nerfs. None of these are nerfs. Increased recovery on dash cancel. There's a nerf. 2k decreased knockback, that's the same thing. Close slash decreased recovery, that's pretty universal. Reduced upper hitbox on far S, so it's going to be easier to IAD over far S. That's good. That's actually really good. 2S reduced startup, reduced recovery. They're making 2S a better poke. Stand H, reduced upper hitbox, same thing as far slash. So if you get a read on a poorly spaced 5S or 5H, you can like IAD over and punish her. That's probably good. JP, JK, the same changes. Bajanetto, that's the sword throw, right? Yeah, sword throw. All versions. Delayed time when the projectile appears. Oh. If Ramlethal takes damage after firing a sword before it reaches the corner, the hitbox disappears and the sword goes on the ground. Decrease damage, reduce the hitbox of the explosion. Oh. Yeah, this shit's so long it turned into a two-parter. What do you know about that? Picking up with Ramlethal's sword throw. Delayed timing when the projectile appears. Attack startup unchanged. If Ram takes damage after the sword is thrown, but before it hits the corner, the hitbox goes away and the sword is on the ground. So that's already huge because that means trading with sword throw is better. It needs to actually hit the wall in order to linger. I think that's fine. Decreased damage, reduced hitbox of explosions. It's going to be easier to dodge the hitbox of the explosion. So that's all pretty good. I wonder what delayed timing of when the projectile appears means. Attack startup remains unchanged. So I just that's another one that we need to see what it means. But I would think that that means maybe the sword shows up later in the animation, but it's still the same amount of startup, so you have less time to recognize that the sword is coming. Is that to sort of shift the risk reward around jabbing through it, maybe? I don't know. Dowrow. One is Dowrow. Oh yeah, that's the 623p. Increased movement distance no longer causes collision detection push box to expand. Yeah, so that's that's the change that's alluded to earlier, where it's supposed to leave you closer. Reduced deceleration and lowered height of ascent on air swords. Yeah, so that's to make it, you can use that as an air tool in your neutral. So my guess is that this is to supplement the fact that 5S and 5H have a smaller hitbox in the upwards direction. So if you want to supplement that and sort of control the space like at jump height, then you are meant to use Ordono instead. So you have to like make a decision. Are you covering the ground and lower, or are you covering like up to standing height? Calvados, that's beam super, decrease damage of all hits other than final and increase the damage of the final hit. Yep, so I don't know if that's, what did they say? That's, yeah, it's to make it better as a combo ender, and then the invincible super difference. So with her, I guess, I know I had said earlier that it didn't look like there were nerfs here, but increased recovery on dash cancel, and the differences to the upper hitboxes of Far S and 5H are actually a pretty significant difference in and of themselves. I'm really curious to see what this sword throw difference actually looks like, and whether it's a difference in when the projectile starts to travel versus when it first shows up. Is this meant to coincide with the light strength counter hit change, or is, you know, this is one of those ones that's really hard to, you know, qualify just by reading it without, you know, numbers or like an example. But I think all in all, I wouldn't even call it a nerf. I guess I would call it an adjustment. Once again, they're doing the thing again where they're like strengthening her mid-range power, the 623p change, leaving her close enough to start offense, combined with close slash now being dash cancelable, but they nerfed her dash cancel, so it sounds like they understand she's strong, she needs some adjustments around the mid-range, and they're trying to give her stuff to sort of compensate for the fact that she's natively a little bit weaker in the close range now, but we're gonna have to see. I think in general, I'd call this very slight nerf, but like almost more of an adjustment. I guess it is going to depend on what the new hitboxes on Bar S and 5H look like. Okay, so for Leo, changes to, I'm not even going to try, cross up Berserker Slash, mean that even when the opponent is in the corner, Leo can go into Brynhildr the same as mid-screen. Due to the disparity and difficulty of punishing and dealing with sweep depending on the opponent's character, its recovery and knockback have been adjusted. So their nerfing is 2D. Although Leo will be open to counter at close range, sweep during a dash can function as a lunge. Okay. So increase nerf to 5k, increased recovery. Interesting. Well, his 5k was really good. His 5k was really good. 2k, the same universal change. Close slash, reduce recovery. 2s, reduce recovery. Command normal 5. Are heavy while holding far S, or S while holding... Okay. Why is it just called command normal 5? Can now withstand the opponent's attacks until directly before the attack is active. So they changed the amount of guard point of his sort of stagger pressure thing. Sweep, expanded lower hitbox, increased recovery, decreased knockback, increased move speed, now affected by dash momentum, and launches opponent on counter hit. Okay, so yeah, like a high risk poke, you dash cancel certain things. That's intriguing for 5k dash cancel and close slash dash cancel. You know, dash cancel right into sweep. It's probably not anything you really want to do, but it offers you like a same side low option where, you know, you can sort of RPS with 5k into, you know, same side Berserker Slash, cross up Berserker Slash, or dash cancel sweep or something, I guess. If they're changing it to make it more punishable, which I think is good, I don't fully understand why they also want to make it something that you're going to treat like a lunge, like to bypass neutral. I don't fully get that change. JP, JK, normal stuff. JS, second hit, launches opponent lower. So I imagine that's to make... Same for JH. I imagine these are all changes to make air combo stuff easier to pull off. Mindstorm, that's Flash Kick. Increased startup, can no longer RC with Gold Burst when blocked, they land more quickly. That's the generic reversal change that we're seeing everywhere. Yeah, cross up Berserker Slash now crosses up even when they're in the corner. Okay, so helps his corner game, lets him get into back turn stance in the corner. You actually have to respect the left-right in the corner. Turbulence, that's... Oh, okay, that's the ground pound. The opponent can now recover after landing. Yeah, causes a hard knockdown. I didn't even internally realize that it happened. So that's not dissimilar to some changes we saw earlier. I forget who the other character was that I was talking about, where they removed, it was May. They removed hard knockdown, and the side effect of that is it's going to make more of a offensive-defensive decision-making situation, where a smart delay attack jab versus a smart quick rise jab is going to make a big difference when jabs are counter hit starters. Kick during back turn. Increased damage, triggers slowdown on counter hit. Okay, so back turn kick is getting the same effect that all other punch and kick limbs are getting. That's interesting. His back turn low was really good, and I feel like fished for counter hits a lot, because that was his... I mean, that was low, but it was also like one of the best options that they really stuck out. So that's kind of huge. And what is Blishtag? Oh, that is the plus on block option. Reduce damage scaling, depletes less risk, reduce combo blowback, causes less wall break. So making it more effective as a combo tool, particularly in the corner. Okay. So these changes are... See, the one that I really don't get is the sweep change. There's... Making the sweep function as a lunge is interesting. I guess maybe it's... Oh, okay. No, I think I get it now. Because, you know, he has good limbs in far slash, far H, and you sort of intrinsically are kind of playing around threatening Berserker Slash or cross up Berserker Slash. So your opponent is dealing with, like, how much do I respect the stagger? versus how much am I watching to back throw the Berserker Slash on reaction. This gives you another thing to put in that situation where you could do dash cancel sweep and try to clip with that low really long there. And, you know, I suppose, you know, you special cancel it into something or you Roman cancel to keep it safe when you just stick it out. But that's the choice. So it gives him another thing to use, you know, in the mid-range and out. I'm going to be really intrigued to see some of the jump cancel or the jump combo changes in general, but for whatever reason, I can't help but feel like, I don't know why I'm thinking about it for him so much. Maybe it's because I've watched so much of like Razo and K7 where I feel like they go for like early JP so often as an air-to-air choice, and now that's going to lead to more damage and it's more meaningful. Corner cross up, obviously a big deal, because, you know, any opportunity where you are giving them an additional notch in their belt at that point, you're already worried in the corner. Now, like, you're watching for this cross up, and it reintroduces that make sure you throw when the Berserker Slash comes out back into the mental stack, which is going to be really difficult. And kick being a counter hit starter out of Brynhildr, it's a low counter hit starter out of back turn stance. That's already like a really weird spot to interact with. Overall, I hesitate to call these buffs. It's not dissimilar to Ram, right? Where like it feels like it's more adjustments. It's more like there's a lot going on with the system mechanic changes that we're going to have to see how big of a difference it makes. But you can see that they're trying to take certain actions to allow him to function better in that new sort of intention of the engine. So I think he's certainly not weaker. Sweep being punishable on block when just used raw should have been the case already, honestly. So that's not a nerf. That's something that just needed to be there. It was weird that it was something that was so, you know, situationally safe as is. So yeah, Leo looking okay. System mechanic changes will be interesting. Nagoriyuki. Okay, so, you know, top 5 character, easily, debatably top 3, depending on who you ask. Super, super strong. What in the world did they do to this character? The properties of moves, such as far S and 2S, depend on the blood gauge. So, okay, so I think previously 5H and 2H had their hitboxes increased when they were in higher tiers of blood. And now, yeah, so now 2S and far S vary in the same way. Okay, so I mean, that's a buff. That's he didn't need more range, but I guess it allows for that 2S threat is actually huge, because I was going to say so much of his, once he got to tier 3 blood, so much of it was like the tip of 2S range into 5H. And with 2S now also going to reach farther, that's like actually super scary. I'm actually kind of surprised. Oh, Beyblade was stronger than the other two options. The situation on block is less advantageous. Beyblade is not going to be 0 on block anymore. That's huge. And Fukio is command dash. Fukio can be canceled into special moves, opening up for greater possibilities for using Fukio in neutral. Okay, so I imagine that they did that in part because he obviously doesn't benefit from the dash cancel change that the rest of the cast benefits from. So he has a command to dash, so they make that function the same way. 2K decreased knockback, that's pretty universal. Far slash attack startup. Startup varies on blood gauge. Damage and chip vary on blood gauge. Okay, hold on. So did they make the base version slower, or did they make the higher tier blood versions faster? Because that's a very big difference. If the base version is slower, that's actually kind of crazy, and I love that as a nerf, because it situationally nerfs him at lower tiers of blood, but maintains his power level at high blood. And if that's the strategy for nerfing him right now, is to say, we love how he functions in tier 3 blood, he is too much of that power exists outside of tier 3 blood. If that's the idea, I love that decision for the nerfs. Far S follow-up, damage and chip, Far S follow final hit, damage and chip. Okay, so only the first hit has variable startup. 2S, startup varies depending on blood gauge, so same change. So again, the question is, does it get faster, or did they make it slower? Reduce lower hitbox on 2H, so it's more distinctly an anti-air, rather than, you know, there were closer ranges where you could still clip in front of you. JP, JK, same changes. JS also start changes based on blood gauge. How often was JS even really used? I mean, I guess it was used some. JH varies with the blood gauge. JD varies with the blood gauge and the startup. Jeez. Blood Rage, decreased opponent's reeling time during guard crush. Okay, so when your Blood Rage pops, they are in block stun for less time. Interesting. Shadow Clone, delayed the timing when the blood gauge begins to increase. So it starts increasing later in it, which means that it's easier for you to pay off that blood gauge with the subsequent combo if it starts. That's not bad. That's not dissimilar. We saw similar changes on the Zato changes where they backloaded the gauge interaction from Eddie. So it looks like they want for the gauge to just happen later. It's interesting. Moriyuki, that is Beyblade. Delayed timing when it increases. Yep. Decreased knockback, so you stay closer. Increased blowback distance. Is that on hit? I don't know the difference between knockback and blowback. No longer causes collision detection, pushbox to expand. Increased recovery. That's the big one. Increased movement distance, so he goes farther. Now remains when canceling into other special moves. Okay, so you do it, but your momentum carries into the next thing. Yeah, the increased recovery is really the big thing. Like, Beyblade was such a tool that you had to respect. It left him at this range 0, and you had to worry about, were we going to get the chain special cancels, which you had to respect, or was he going to use it to stagger pressure? So now, you know, the threat of just staggering is so much weaker, which means Nago is going to have to favor going from Beyblade into DP, which is obviously going to push the blood gauge that much faster. So it's going to make this a little bit more volatile. That's definitely a nerf to this move, even with some of the, you know, the difference in the movement distance and the momentum cancel. It's definitely a nerf. I think it's an important one. Shizoriyuki's DP, delayed the timing when the blood gauge increases, added ground bounce to the second hit. Okay, so there's the payoff. You do Beyblade, the threat of going into DP after is what makes people respect it, and if they're hit by the DP, the second hit causes the ground bounce, which you get, you know, more damage out of. So what they've done is they've shifted the risk reward and said, okay, it's 0 on block, which means that staggers are still super effective, but people are respecting it because of the special cancel. We're going to make you have to condition with the special cancel that much more. Ukio, the latter half of the move can be canceled into the special moves. Momentum now remains. So the same momentum difference with Beyblade, but they're letting command dash function more like the regular dash cancel stuff that we were seeing. And then Soriyuki is super. Increased recovery when the following is not triggered. Now bounces opponent higher without triggering the follow-up cinematic. Oh, interesting. So it is the reversal change that we saw, where it's increased recovery and they land faster when they block it midair. But it looks like they also, I feel like they had changed to get rid of this, where there were lots of use cases where people used this super and used it as combo filler and then got a juggle after. So with the bounce being higher, presumably you still get that juggle after. These are some interesting changes for Nago. I think all in all, what I need to see, and it's the difference between, I think, a fair set of nerfs or not enough nerfs, is if Far S and 2S, if they were made slower outside of late blood versus made faster in late blood, that's a big difference. If they're faster in late blood, then I think that kind of compensates for the Beyblade nerf a lot. especially because the Beyblade nerf means that Beyblade into other special moves needs to be how you condition people, and it's that much more important. So you're going to end up in that later blood more often. It's going to change the way you interact with the blood gauge management, but I think if the end result of that is that your tier 3 blood form is stronger, then that's really good for him. Pending that, I'm assuming, like, I really want to believe that it's made weaker and that they've tweaked the frame such that he is how he is now in tier 3 blood or even tier 2 blood, but not at tier 1. If that's a nerf at tier 1, then I really like what they've done with Nago. Especially, once again, so many of these things come back to the universal change for punch and kick normals to now cause counter hit slowdowns. So even, this Beyblade change being negative now, if you try to stagger and get jab punished, you're eating fat damage. So they buffed the follow-up of the DP, which is going to be one of your go-to options as you go off of Beyblade to condition people for trying to hit buttons. So they're really, a lot of the changes around his special moves are very much geared around that interaction of how Beyblade was used as this sort of reset setter where it's like, now I'm in range 0 and you're scared of me. Am I going to special cancel or am I going to stagger? So the big thing for me, I'm going to call this fair nerfs pending what 5S and 2S actually look like. Okay, Giovanna. So I felt like Giovanna was in this really interesting place where, I feel like she's not talked about super often, but then I watched Arc Revo Finals, and forgive me, I forget their name, but the Giovanna player that beat Hotashi in group stages absolutely ran over them. And I think it's just, she has every tool you need. I guess sans a fireball. But, her movement is so good, her stagger pressure is so good, and she has so many different options that she can use to keep you guessing. None of which are like super, super powerful. It's just like she has so many different ways to cycle her offense back into being a mid dispenser, combined with the fact that her dash cancel moves are so good because her dash is so front loaded with momentum. So I'm going to be curious, especially given that she was such a frame trap monster, how did they tweak her? We made adjustments to emphasize the distinctive features of each special move after she leaps up during soul point. Once again, check move names, but I think that is... Yeah, that's the air flip that was plus on block. Her forward movement can be controlled with left, right. The reduced startup makes it a utilities and mix-up tool. Okay, so it comes out faster, and she can control how far forward or back she moves. So is this to make it... I mean, it being faster, I think, is fine. Frankly, I felt like it was easy enough to just react to flip versus spiral arrow and 6P those, because 6P beat both. So it coming out faster, it depends on how much faster, I guess, because it is still a plus on block special move. So it does need to be checked. I feel like that's usually the design convention, right? If the move is plus, then there needs to be some sort of check to it or some sort of situation you need to get into wherein you use it that way. The decreased recovery of Travau, that is spiral arrow, further strengthens its ability. I'm sorry? So that was already plus. It's going to be more plus now? And they made her DP function more like a DP. Oh, okay. So flip kick was plus and is faster and can be a left-right. And spiral arrow is going to be more plus. It has less recovery. That's already kind of crazy. Dash movement distance can be altered during the animation. Okay, so you have a little bit more control over how far the dash goes. It looks like they buffed that sort of wolf form thing she gets. So she gets chip damage when she's over 50%. I think that's fine. The 2K, the same sort of universal change. Far S, decreased horizontal blowback distance. Again, I I wish I understood what they meant between blowback versus knockback, but something is being pushed less away for far S. Sweep increased recovery. Okay. And no longer hits when more than a set distance apart. So that's interesting. So dash cancel sweep was really strong for her. That was a really good tool. And they've nerfed that. JP and JK changes are more or less the same. JS, reduced upper hurt box. That's probably to make JS function as a better air-to-air. Let me look at her JS. Yeah, that's already a limb that is directed upwards. So definitely trying to make that a better air-to-air. JS launches lower. JD, decreased damage, but more launch, so better juggle opportunity. They nerfed her throw range too. Interesting. Wow. I'm a little bit surprised by some of these. That's interesting. So her throw game is weaker. I'm going to be curious about how that interacts with some of the rest of this. It seems like they're pushing her more towards needing to play just outside of that range and play around using special moves to get in and get plus frames versus stealing dash cancels. Sepultura, that's 2 and 4K. That's just the generic special ender. Decreased damage, reduce lower hitbox and hurtbox. Okay, so just a generic nerf on that. Spiral Arrow, expended the max distance with opponent from which it can connect. Increased active frames, reduced recovery. So that's meant to function as more of a poke or like a get-in tool. Is that them shifting away? They want you to do dash cancel sweep less, and they want you to get in with Spiral Arrow. That seems like that may be the change. DP, reduce lower hitbox, extended upper hitbox. They want it to function more like a DP. Soul Punt, that's flip kick, expanded lower hitbox and hurtbox. Movement distance depends on where you press the button. Opponent can now recover after landing. Okay. Increased recovery. Oh. I may have read that wrong. Increased recovery. Reduced attack startup of the second hit. So it's a mix-up tool, but maybe it won't. Did I misread this? The reduced startup. So they changed the startup. They didn't mention up here that they also reduced the recovery. So presumably, this is not going to... I assume then this is not going to be plus on block anymore. I assume then that now this is a combo starter, like a small combo starter if it hits. It's a mix-up tool, but it is not going to be plus on block. That's going to be that's a pretty interesting change for her. So they're pushing it more deliberately to Spiral Arrow being how you get your plus frames back, and shifting this to be a mix-up tool. And then increased attack startup on her regular her spin kick super. That's pretty whatever. Okay. These are interesting. These are really interesting. So first and foremost, Spiral Arrow is a bigger deal. It seems like they want to emphasize more of Spiral Arrow in her kit. And pushing Flip Kick as a mix-up tool instead, which I guess it was already used as one sometimes, but it was just the spacing on it was really rigid. Like there were spots where it was either going to cross up or it was not going to cross up, and that was kind of that. Now you get to make that a guess, which makes her more than the sort of, super staggery spacing focused mids dispenser that she was. I say mids dispenser like her 2K and her 2S weren't stellar. But just that, like, she was very pressure focused, but I feel like she wasn't super mix up focused. And this gives her a mix up. And Spiral Arrow actually further empowers her as someone that has this other unique way to get in to range 0 and be plus, where now everyone in the cast is going to be able to do these dash cancel things that I feel like she was already using in neutral all the time. So it further differentiates her. The throw range difference is really interesting, and I wonder if that's like... That might be that after Spiral Arrow gets blocked, you aren't in throw range. That specifically might be that, like, Spiral Arrow gets you in, but it does not earn you true strike throw. So that would be an interesting thing to check out is like after Spiral Arrow, 1, how plus are you now? And 2, are you in range to ground throw? Or is this just like, it might be ranging dependent, right? Because like if you hit at the tip, obviously you're going to be farther away. But hers, we're going to call them buffs. We're going to say it's buffs. It's really intriguing. Some of these I need to see more in action, obviously, before I can make any sort of real call. Because some of these, like, I wish I knew what the fuck horizontal blowback meant versus horizontal knockback. What are you going to do? Anji, poor Anji. This character has needed love. Oh, and I already see exactly what I feel like people needed to see off rip. Fujin, the crux of Anji's offense, and its follow-ups have improved utility. The decrease in recovery of Fujin makes it harder to punish on block. Full stop, that's already something huge. I think the fact that Fujin, when stuck out on its own, bear with me as I look on the other screen as I scroll through, but the fact that Fujin on its own was already kind of super not safe meant that, you know, you had to engage with these subsequent layers. And the fact that there were some of the follow-ups off of Fujin just simply weren't that stellar. I mean, we all remember when the game launched and somebody posted the video of Leo being able to just DP through every follow-up Anji had. And it's like, oh, well, there's a bad matchup. Anji literally can't play his game. It is now easier to maintain the offensive after the opponent blocks Itashiki, which is the fan toss, and Rin is the overhead. Rin's decreased startup makes it a better mix-up tool. Are you kidding me? So they buffed the overhead, and they, for whatever reason, however they changed the fan toss. As the movement speed of Shitsu decelerates near the corner, it functions better as an Okazemi tool in the corner. That butterfly? Yeah, Shitsu is butterfly. So butterfly got the same change that Potemkin Aegis Reflector got, which is that it will slow down at the corner so that you can still use it in the corner. It definitely felt bad to stick out a butterfly in the corner and then just watch it go off the screen. But Anji needs a lot of love. Let's see what they gave him. 2k decreased knockback, that's universal. Close slash, reduced recovery, that's pretty universal so far. Far slash is faster with less frontal hurtbox. That's good, a better poke. Same for 2S. No longer in counter hit state after active frames end. That's good. Does his hurtbox linger or something? I don't know very much about 2S. Oh. Fair enough. 5H, opponent is now forced in forced crouch on grounded counter hit. Huh. Is that specifically so? I know commonly when you crouch, you have a wider hurt box. Is that so that on the counter hit, you get counter hit specific combos that were crouching only that now will always happen because of it? JP and JK are the pretty universal changes. JH launches higher, that's the same. JD, expanded frontal hitbox, reduce the hurtbox. JD's, that's air fan open, right? Yeah. Shitsu, projectile decelerates, that's the butterfly. Fujin, reduced recovery, we definitely need to see how much. Charged Fujin no longer launches on ground hit. Increased attack level on the fan toss. So, is attack level how we calculate the frame advantage? So, is it now going to be treated like it's going to get more block stun? Is that what that means? You know what? We go on a little detour here. Find out. Okay, yeah, that's exactly what that means. So there's like fixed values that describe how much block stun things get. And so rather than just saying this got more block stun or hit stun, it getting a bigger attack value, that's what that means. So it's going to be safer on block or more plus on block. Nagiha increased startup on the low option. Interesting. Rin reduced startup. Okay. So the startup was 13 frames and 25 frames. I wonder if they're both like 1919. I wonder if they tried to make that a truer 50-50 or harder to fuzzy guard between the low versus the high. And the high being safer is kind of crazy. Well, I guess depending on how much shorter it is this now once again playing around with the light strength counterpoke change, where the idea is if Rin was super slow, if people are going to mash 5p out of Rin, which I don't think anybody was mashing out of that. Usually you just kind of blocked it and then punished them. But is the idea now that they're, pushing more counterpokes, which means these big starters that are interruptible need to have more obvious rewards on the back. Ko is, that's like the anti-airy thing. Decreased damage of the second hit, opponent can now recover while landing. So no more hard knockdown, and his super has more damage. Okay, so Anji overall, first and foremost, 4S and 2S having better startup, already great. It lets them compete in the neutral more. Fujin being safer, we need to see how much safer. A lot of this is going to have to do with the numbers, right? You can say you've reduced the recovery, that's all well and good. We don't know to what, right? If you cut off 2 frames, I don't know that that's going to make a huge difference. If you cut off 10 frames, that's going to be absolutely massive. So we're going to have to see. The interaction between low and overhead out of Fujin is going to be really interesting. The fact that they made the low option slower tells me that they want to make the interaction between low and overhead different. Them both changing, but both changing to be closer to one another in terms of startup, re-incentivizes like fuzzy guarding, but it makes the fuzzy guard timing like different. So I'm going to be very curious to see how those ultimately look. Anytime we see an overhead option get buffed, I'm really curious. Reduced recovery by how much? That's another one that's punishable on block. Is it safe now? Is the overhead safe? We're going to have to see. I think in general, this reads to me as though they've tried to improve Anji. His mid-range strength, even regardless of the actual numerical changes for Fujin, are going to be good. Your far slash and your 2S being faster is always going to be a good thing. We need to see what Fujin, the low, the overhead, and the fan toss look like now. But if those were tweaked in a good way, I think this could be really valuable for him. This could end up being a pretty decent change for Anji, and way less gimmicky than what they gave him last time, which was the empty cancels off of Fujin, which was so strange, and really just turned him more into this sort of gimmicky character, where I feel like that was never supposed to be his point, right? The mix-up structure is gated behind Fujin. You space Fujin in the right way. People are frustrated to deal with him in the mid-range because he has these strong pokes that lead to these frustrating options for you to deal with, and you're supposed to overwhelm them in that way. And just Fujin was never strong enough. The follow-up options weren't anything that anyone really respected. And so you were left with this just like really barely functioning kind of character where, he couldn't conform to his own game plan. But it looks like if these numbers change in the right way, I think that's going to go a long way to make this a little bit better for him. So, tentatively buffed. Let's see what the numbers look like. All right, the last launch character, Ino, specializes at closing in quickly from mid-range to starter mix-up. She now has more options to pressure the opponent from mid to far range. Oh, really? So they're buffing her like outside of range 0 or like range 1-2. That's interesting. The additional projectile range for Chemical Love makes it easier to hit the opponent. Chemical Love. Let's not note. Yeah, Chemical Love is the air fireball. Okay, so they're making that go farther. The air note has different utility than grounded note due to the increase in movement speed. And Heavy Stroke was a powerful tool. This capability has been reduced by increasing its recovery. Oh, while maintaining its speed and reward on hit. Interesting. So Stroke is not going to cycle offense back. Air dash and back air dash trajectory can be altered with up or down, so we can tweak the angle of her air dash. That's super interesting. I wonder how the landing recovery will be of like instant air dash down like a fast fall. 2P is faster, 2K reduced upper hurt box, and the same sort of generic one, close slash, the same generic reduced recovery. 2S is faster and goes farther. JP and JK are the pretty universal changes. Note is easier to alter the trajectory after activation. Projectile now appears when the move is RC'd earlier, so that's the same change we saw for Faust's air fireball. I imagine it's going to be a much bigger deal for Ino than for Faust. Fixed a bug where the attack would stay on screen longer than intended. Okay, quality of life thing. Air note goes faster but takes longer to recover. Chemical Love has increased active frames. Okay, so it's going to do a better job of controlling the screen. Stroke, increased recovery, increased stagger direction, decreased knockback. So less plus on block, but the increased stagger duration means that you get the same on-hit effect. So you still get the same combos off of Stroke that you would have otherwise. And then Sultry Performance, heavy dive kick, basically. I guess not dive kick, it's more so used for like the headbutt, however the fuck we want to call it. The final hit now has the same properties regardless of the number of hits. That's the same change we saw, or a similar change we saw to Zato JP. That strikes me as like an air combo change, where when they opened up this air combo stuff with JP and JK and all of those kinds of changes, that they found that the heavy version of Sultry Performance wasn't working the way they wanted to. And then Ultimate Fortissimo is the super increased startup. So that's the same thing we saw in the more or less universal reversal changes. Okay, so Ino, it looks like, I mean, they didn't really tweak her mix-up game all that much. It seems like they're pretty comfortable with how powerful her mix-up game was with the air dashes. I'm going to be really curious to see what the new air dash trajectories look like. Otherwise, it looks like it's a lot of buffs to mid-range buttons. Chemical Love having more active frames makes her better fight outside of that mix-up thing, so she functions a little bit better as a character outside of when she's just running that offense. I mean, some of these projectile changes we're just going to have to see. The difference on Stroke is going to be a big deal, because actually, is Heavy Stroke already interruptible? Like, can you interrupt Heavy Stroke? Is that something that was commonly done? 28 frames startup. I mean, that is technically in the band of reactable. I wonder if I'm going to be curious to see if people are going to start trying to jab Heavy Stroke and really watch for it. And then this change is sort of de-incentivizing it accordingly to be like, all right, look, you don't need to use Stroke to cheat your way back in. We've buffed you at this farther out range. Your, 2S is better. Your, 2P is better. Chemical Love is better. Just be a little bit more comfortable being in the mid-range. And they really didn't. So ultimately, they didn't tweak what she's good at. They just shifted around a little bit of the other stuff outside of the nerf to Heavy Stroke, which I think is probably going to be a big deal. So, I mean, with Ino, we're going to have to watch what the new fireballs look like. We're going to have to watch what the new Chemical Love looks like. And we're going to have to see how Heavy Stroke interacts with some of these other system mechanic changes. But I don't want to call this buff. I don't want to call this nerf. I think she's just going to be, she's just changed. It's a pretty lateral move for Ino, I think. Okay, so Gold Lewis. What's going to be funny is they're going to have to talk about Behemoth Typhoons in like 17 different contexts. Gold Lewis is capable of more powerful offense and neutral due to changes to his normals like 5H and JD, as well as buffs to Thunderbird and Burn It Down. Due to increase of move speed and momentum for 6H, it is potent when cancelled into Behemoth Typhoon. So they want you to use 6H into Behemoth Typhoon? Interesting. The properties of Thunderbird now change based on security level. Fucking one is Thunderbird. Oh, I thought it already did. Thunderbird is the drone. And Burn It Down is laser. So they're making Thunderbird, they're making drone be even more different based on security level now? That's weird. Okay. 6P extended lower hurt box, so it's easier to hit crouchers, I'm sure. 2K, same change, but reduced recovery is interesting. Close slash, reduced recovery, that's been pretty universal. Far slash moves forward with less hurt box. Standing H, bigger hitbox. 6H, increased move speed and maintains momentum, so 6H like, far slash Gatling 6H into Behemoth Typhoon is going to be like a big party starter string for him. Like, that's going to be how you get into range and then just start rolling out Behemoth Typhoons. That's interesting. JP, JK, universal changes, JS, Hurtbox, JD, Hurtbox change, JD comes out faster. Thunderbird, this is the drone. Delayed the timing of security level reset. Recovery varies depending on security level. Oh, so if the security level's higher, the drone comes out faster? Flash level varies depending on security level, so higher level drones will interact differently. The projectile decelerates when close to the corner. That's the same thing we saw with Aegis and the butterfly from Anji. Active frames now extend after connecting with the opponent. I'm not completely sure what that means. Does that mean that like there's a fixed amount of time that it's going to hit the opponent regardless of where it connects? So if you get caught by the drone at the end of its active time, it's still going to hit for the same amount of time it otherwise would have? Decreased horizontal blowback except for final hit. Sure. The timing when the hitbox no longer disappears if Gold Lewis takes damage after firing the projectile now varies based on security level. Okay, so the drone sticks around longer, faster at higher security level. So at a higher level, it comes out faster and stays faster. Remove the set distance for the opponent required for the final hit. The opponent can no longer recover after landing. Oh, drone is a hard knockdown now. Skyfish is railgun, delayed the timing of security level reset. This seems to be a thing that they're doing all across the board, that they're making the meters reset later in the cycles. They did it for Eddie, they're doing it for Gold Lewis, and they did it for Nago's blood gauge too. I wonder what the deal with that is. That's an interesting one. I wonder if that's so if you get jabbed out of the startup of things, you don't lose the resource? Maybe? I don't fully get it. Down with the system. That's his reversal super. Burn it down, reduce recovery, increased attack level. That's Sky Laser. Okay. Well, upside, I don't have to think about Behemoth Typhoon, thank God. These are pretty universally buffs for him. The drone change is pretty drastic. I feel like drone was already sort of the way that people preferred to use security level. So now this later level security drone is going to be super valuable. Far slash 6H, both having this, momentum thing. They're building in more momentum into his mid-range pokes and strengthening his mid-range pokes. So he's going to be able to contest with normals better in mid-range to enable Behemoth Typhoon later. And the fact that they've included this momentum carry is super interesting because they are like actively deciding and like, all right, cool, this is the way you use these moves. You want to use this move and buffer into a Behemoth Typhoon so that you can start to run that offense. So all in all, these are buffs for Gold Lewis. The drone change is pretty good, and these tweaks to his normals, I think, just are all around going to help him. So, I mean, it's good for the Gold Lewis players. There's absolutely nothing to complain about in here. All right, Jacko. Jacko seemed like she was in a really weird spot. I think when she first landed, I thought she was going to be like Zato, where it was just going to take people a while to figure out the best way to manage her resources and cash out the use of the minions. But I feel like ultimately she just didn't pan out in the same way. So let's see how they sort of enable her to, play her game. Due to the increase to the initial servant gauge level, Jacko has more freedom to use servants and neutrals or combos right after the round starts. Okay, so she just starts with more servant gauge. That's good. Servants thrown and hit by shoot would lose against other projectiles despite requiring more steps. They've increased the class level. I think that makes sense. If it takes her 2 or 3 steps to enable using a servant, and the whole point is that she can treat them as a projectile, it feels bad to lose to that to a single projectile interaction if Kai just throws out a stun edge or something. So I think that makes sense. I'm curious what is the interaction now going to be like? How much higher is the clash level? How much projectile does it beat? We're going to have to see. Servant gauge, increased gauge value around start. Simple enough. She's just in a better position. 2P comes out faster. 5K comes out faster. 2K comes out faster, less recovery, and decreased knockback. So that's the universal change, but they're also universally buffing her light strength buttons. So that's really good. It's going to go a long way to help her. She already had to sort of intelligently counterpoke, right? Like she didn't have a reversal. Even her super wasn't really a reversal. It started up so slow. So rewarding you for smart Abare. Close / reduce recovery, pretty universal. 2S, decreased blowback distance. Sweep comes out faster. JP and JK are the universal changes. JS or JH expanded the lower hitbox and hurtbox of the initial hit. JD can be jump canceled, air dash canceled, special canceled, and can be. So this is the same thing that Kai had. This is the Kai change to her JD. What does her JD look like? Oh, interesting. So it's like a projectile shot. Shows how much I've seen of Jacko, right? That I actually had to double check. That's interesting. I wonder if it can only be jump canceled on hit. Like, do you have to do it in a combo, or can you do it and then air dash forward and have had the projectile cover your approach? That's going to be interesting. That's another one that I can't. We need to see we need to see it in action to really comprehend it. All versions of Throne Servant increase clash level, reduce recovery. That's good. Release Servant made the timing of the tension gauge increase upon special activation faster. Interesting. That's another one that I'm like, what is the point of that? And then Recover Servant, reduce recovery. So it's easier for her to, once again, Recover Servant all version while lifting made the timing of the tension gauge increase on special gauge activation faster. They're giving her tension faster. Is that just a quality of life change, or is this meant to interact with something else? Servant attack comes out faster and recovers faster, but the frame advantage is the same. So it just functions better. Attack command while lifting, tension gauge is better. Attack command while lifting deals damage. So while you're lifting a servant, if you're holding a servant, it deals damage. Defend commands, they can block for longer and they have a bigger hitbox. Same thing about tension gauge. This is like a universal thing. They're trying to front load her tension gauge more, and I wonder why that is. Countdown, that's the one that makes them explode, right? Again, they made it faster. Servant shot, more active frames, less recovery, increased clash level of the servant. Aerial servant shot, reduced deceleration. And Forever Elysian Driver, that's her super. Servants are now recoverable immediately upon activation. Okay, so a lot of the Jacko changes are kind of weird. I mean, well, so first of all, universal buffs, right? Most of her light strength buttons are just faster and better now, which fits with the system mechanic for the counter pokes. That's going to make her more effective there. And the buffs to the servant interactions to make them faster and better compete on the ground is just going to universally help her. Like, I think universally all of these changes are here to help her. I don't understand the difference to the tension gauge stuff. And I don't know if that's just a quality of life change or if there's something under the hood there that I just don't know about. Maybe a Jacko player will tell me if one exists. Ooh boy. Happy Chaos. One of the tricorn of troublemakers of all of our favorite games right now, joining the roster of Luke and Labcoat 21. Happy Chaos, the big problem of Guilty Gear Strive. Let's see what they did to him. The amount of concentration depleted now varies depending on the distance between Chaos and the opponent. That's already more interesting. So you have to concentrate more if they're full screen. That's an interesting change. That's an interesting way to, like, very, very strategically nerf him. It is more difficult than before to continuously use fire from long range. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. The sight, on the other hand, he can now use powerful strings at close range while expending less concentration. Oh, I see. So by changing the way his concentration gauge works based on where they are on the screen, he can use it more as a pressure tool and less as a zoning tool. So by tweaking the way concentration works, you are de-incentivizing the curse ball plus shot plus ready aim shot that we have seen dominating at the highest levels. That's a really interesting way to try to nerf him. The sight now targets the opponent when they block at the ready, meaning he can maintain his offense more effectively. So you go into the ready stance, and if they block the ready stance, it's already aimed, which even further pushes him as a pressure character, using these resources for pressure rather than to just lock you down at full screen. I already think this is a really clever way to handle him. As fire can be used during dash cancels, he can more easily approach from mid-range. That's a good point, too. So you get, close slash or 5K, dash cancel shoot, or even just dash cancel shoot in general. He can sort of dash shoot, and cover his own approach. So he's going to be able to really control the screen and zip around. That's super interesting. Damn, that's actually really cool. Okay, concentration. The amount depleted while readying the gun varies depending on the distance. Yeah, they said that. 2P comes out faster. 2K keeps them closer. That's pretty generic. Close slash, reduce recovery, pretty generic. Far slash, more knockback, less recovery, increased move speed. His far slash was really good. I think his far slash was great. So buffs the far slash, that's kind of nutty. 2S expanded, they made 2S bigger. JP and JK are the universal stuff. J2K, I didn't even honestly know he had a J2K. Oh, the head stomp. Reduce startup, reduce recovery, decreased height of bounce. Okay. Ready stance. Reduce recovery, increased damage scaling. Completes more risk level, increased blowback scaling. Increased starters, now causes more. Okay, so they are very specifically pushing this as a pressure tool and less as a combo starter. That's interesting. So the idea being that, like, you go into ready stance and you shoot them to check them, and now that's engaging your staggery pressure at range 0. Fire, hitbox disappears when Happy Chaos takes damage, decreased knockback. Fire during steady aim does less damage. That's huge. The amount of damage he did when he was in steady aim was kind of crazy. Steady aim made the timing of tension. Okay, that's the same Jacko change. Reduced recovery after exiting the stance from steady aim. So stance cancels are better? That's interesting. Reload. Same thing. Chaos now remains in counter hit until the end of the animation. Oh my god. If you smack Happy Chaos out of reload, he's gonna fucking die. Okay. Wow. I think they were very smart in how they nerfed this character. Because they didn't nerf him, they pivoted him. And they incentivized, or they highlighted the spots where he is supposed to have counterplay options. Because here's one of the things about Happy Chaos is when you were dealing with Happy Chaos and you were just getting shot at from full screen, there were a few places where you had to make a call. And they were when concentration was running out, when he had to reload, and when he had to reapply curse. I think the problem was it was so long to get to those points, and you as the opponent were watching them interact with like 3 different resources that it was hard to keep track of everything. So there were counterplay options, but they were few and far between. You lost so much life to chip damage while it happened. You had to waste all your tension on FDing just to live through it all. This is huge, especially as they push him to be more mid-range focused and to, be less effective as a zoner for that amount of time. So the zoning is going to last for less time because you're going to have more opportunities to go in because of the difference in concentration, which also means Happy Chaos has to spend more meter on the super that refills concentration, which means there's less super available for Deus Ex Machina to cash out crazy damage from full screen. So it pushes, it makes his zoning just zoning. Like his zoning is still there, but it's less effective for less time and does less damage. And they made the reward for you watching reloads better. Focus, timing for tension increase. Yeah, that's fine. Roll can now use fire sooner, increase move speed. Scapegoat takes more health. And curse effect now ends. If you hit Happy Chaos, curse goes away. Okay, this is great. I love these changes. I don't think he's bad. I don't think this is going to make him bad. I think he's still going to be a very usable character. I think the difference is he's not going to be this super zoner that can't fucking be touched, that just zones you for 15, 20, 30 seconds straight because you missed the one opportunity to go in, or they cheated out a double reload and suddenly now you're dealing with all this extra shit. Instead, the zoning is weaker. There's more opportunities for counterplay. There's more opportunities for you to interact with him and make his sort of setup go away. This is all, I love this. I love this for him. These are nerfs. Like overwhelmingly, like I'm giving the top level thoughts. Absolutely, Happy Chaos got nerfed. But what I love that they have done is they've given that specific buff from at the ready on block to open up a different layer of actual offense for him when he does get in. So it's not like he only functioned as a zoner and now that's gone. I think they have pivoted the character in a way that I find super interesting. I love this. Baiken. Baiken was another one that I feel like we've just not really seen her explored super much. And I mean, she landed after Happy Chaos, right? Like, what was the point of exploring much of her? She had some interesting stuff. The grapple mechanic is super interesting, but I feel like we've not gotten to see a whole lot out of her. I can't even speak to, I've seen so little of her that I can't even really speak to what I think it is that she needs. I'm just hoping that it becomes evident as I look at this that they have some sort of intention. These changes make it easier for Baiken to maintain her offense. Decreased recovery of S. Kabari means that she can have advantage while attacking when the opponent is tethered. Okay, so the S version of tether lets her cycle her offense again. It's a proper stagger. Because it is 0 on block now. So it's going to be plus on block. So that's pretty good. Her combos are now more likely to connect from certain distance due to the expanded hitbox of Tatami and the momentum remaining after canceling 6k. So those sound like quality of life changes. 5p comes out faster. 2k knockback, that's a universal change. 6k, momentum remains when canceled. Find her 6k. Oh, so, okay. So she like steps forward and now that's interesting. Is that momentum remains when canceled? So that is so that you can like Kara cancel 6k into stuff, maybe? Close slash reduced recovery, that's been pretty universal. Far slash comes out faster, has less hurt box, so that's just a straight up buff to far slash. 2S is the same, just a straight up buff. 2H no longer hits opponent when more than a set distance, reduced upper hurt box. So that's to make it function as a better anti-air, I think. Oh no, that's not an anti-air button at all. I just had to double check the thing. Huh. Reduced upper, oh, hurt box. Maybe it's a better trip guard? Or is that just so, no, that's so that it doesn't trade as much with like standing limbs. That's so lightly you can low profile standing limbs is my guess. Which makes sense because like it would suck to stick out your 2H and get smacked by like a 5p and that's a counter hit starter. So, okay, I get that. JP and JK, those are the universal changes. Tatami now activates even after an upwards input, expanded frontal hitbox of the strike. Is that, this thing now activates after an upwards input, is that talking about the prioritization of round Tatami? So you can't Tiger Knee Tatami? But they buffed the ground version accordingly so that the initial strike goes farther. Air Tatami hits farther back. Okay, I mean, I guess people weren't necessarily Tiger Kneeing Tatami as much as they were, you know, safe jumping with Tatami. So that makes it easier to do the ground one, I guess. Kabari S stays on the ground. Increase startup. Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be plus on block, but you can counter poke it on the startup. H tether now affected less by combo scaling. H tether follow up triggers counter hit. So if you counter hit with H tether, the follow up is what will trigger the counter hit effect. I guess it didn't do that. Increased recovery on block, so it is more punishable on block. No longer in counter hit state after the frames end. No longer hit opponent when more than a set distance apart. So it's punishable, but less but not counter hit punishable on block, it sounds like. That's interesting. I wonder what the implications of that are. I don't fully understand that one. However we want to call this. This is the air pizza cutter. Reduce landing recovery, increase damage. Okay, so it's I don't imagine that was something that got used as like a jump in tool, so it's probably more for combo fill stuff so that you get better frame advantage after. Defensive parry, reduced recovery after a successful parry as well as unsuccessful. So better frame advantage if you land it. You recover faster if you don't, so it's harder to check it. And then, yeah, reversal super, it's the same reversal stuff we've seen across the board. So for Baiken, I mean, these are mostly universal buffs. Enforcing Tatami and Tether as on the ground, I think is fine. I'm a little bit surprised they're calling it out specifically here when other characters have, you know, ground and air okay options that would also be affected by the sort of the universal ground prioritization thing. So I'm a little intrigued why they're specifically calling it out for Baiken here. But I think in general, these are just pretty good, you know, quality of life improvements across most of her normals. S Tatami or S Tether being safe, being plus on block but interruptible, gives her sort of that mid-range, like, will you hit the button or won't you kind of interaction that it seems like they're pushing a lot here, where there's a lot of that, like, this is the move you interrupt, and if you don't, then you have to deal with the fact that you have to hold this mix up now. So they're actively building that into her kit, which I think will be valuable. Yeah, I mean, this is all good for her. I don't see any of this that seems like it's going to be bad. It's just, once again, I don't fully understand what the character's problems were, or if it was just that she wasn't as strong as the top tier characters like your Rams, your Nagos, your Happy Chaoses. In which case, some of them are being reined in. A lot of these system mechanics make a big difference, and she's got some meaningful changes here. So we're going to have to see. And finally, Testament, who we've actually really only gotten to play around with for a real short while so far. But I know Testament, I loved the design of Testament. There's a lot of resources to manage. I don't know if it's just a question of we didn't have enough time to really fully explore what the character does, or if there's just things that don't work the way that we would like to. Like, for example, I wish Stain worked a little bit different. And I know I've heard that expressed from some other people as well. So let's see how they tweak Testament. It's super possible that Testament just ends up, some quality of life changes and nothing drastic, just because Testament is the newest character, so we've gotten to see the least of them. Moves such as Grave Reaper have been strengthened, as there were situations where Testament couldn't launch an offensive in both neutral and on the opponent's wake up. Okay, so Grave Reaper is, that's Skull Toss. So, okay, how have they been strengthening it, though? That's going to be curious to see. The situation after landing the strike hit of S Grave Reaper is improved, and it's easier to land Unholy Diver as a meaty. Okay, so you land S Reaper, and then Crow just works. Air and Ground Skull have less startup and are easier to use in combos. So it's easier to use them as combo filler, and it is a better way to apply Stain. Oh, well, I guess only the Scythe applies Stain. But if you use it as combo filler, you're going to get Stain on. Crow now causes less blowback on aerial hit, making it easier to follow up. This creates an opportunity to deal damage. Ooh. So Crow as combo filler on launched opponents, or perhaps like 6p anti-air into Crow. If that juggles, then you can get a combo off of it. I don't imagine so, because I think 6p anti-air like knocks them away, right? That's going to be really curious. Crow fixed a bug where they wouldn't behave as intended after a wall break sequence. Oh, they trained the Crow. Air dash, shortened dash time. Okay. Jump landing. Their lower hurt box would disappear at the instant of landing. That's a weird bug. 5k reduced recovery, so 5k is just a better poke. I think Testament's 5k was really good, right? Let me double check. Yeah, Testament's 5k was great. Reduced recovery? That's a great tool. And 5k is going to be dash cancelable now. 5k? Ooh, that's going to be good. 2k, the same change as everywhere else, but they've also made it faster. Close slash, reduced recovery. Sense, far slash comes out faster. Reduced recovery, reduced hurtbox. Far slash got buffed. Okay. 2s comes out faster. Better hurtbox. Buffs. Far H, reduced recovery. Also comes out faster. Jeez. You remember when everyone was like, oh, these normals are going to get whiff punished. It's going to be harder to whiff punish them now. 6H, reduced startup. 6H is faster too. JP, JK, the universal changes. JS, reduced frontal hurtbox. Sure. Grave Reaper, Skull Toss. Now activates even after upwards input, so it prioritizes ground version. Succubus remains on screen longer. Oh yeah, because the Succubus lands where the skull does. That's good. I think one of the things was like, it felt like you had so little time to pay off the resources you generated as Testament, like you were cycling them so quickly. I like the idea of letting you leave that resource on the screen for a little bit longer. Ground version, expanded hitbox and hurtbox of the strike. That's fine, it just goes longer. S version launches the opponent higher. H version, lower hitbox of the projectile as it comes out is bigger. So the H version of the skull is just bigger. All slash versions, the back of the hitbox is better. All H versions come out faster. How much faster? What was the difference in speed between S and H? Start up. Wow. It's Dust Loop doesn't actually have them differentiated. But it is just going to come out faster. So that's cool. Unholy Diver, that's Crow. Launches opponent higher. Increased active frames after Succubus transformation. Expanded hitbox after Succubus transformation. The Crow will now always fly forward in a straight line when the button is held, even if Succubus is on screen. Oh yeah, because when the Crow gets there, the Crow like transforms or something when it gets to the end, right? It again shows how little of Testament I've seen. The Crow will now always fly in a straight line when the button is held. So that's interesting. It's letting you use that projectile in slightly different ways. I mean, this seems like it's probably for like combo versatility. Arbiter sign. Oh, which one is possession? Oh, possession is the teleport. So you'll get ground teleport. You'll prioritize getting ground teleport. That's probably fine. The frame data doesn't like change. Arbiter sign. All versions reduced recovery. So the high-low mix-up is faster. Is it reduced enough to be safe? I'm gonna be curious to see. That might be a range-specific thing. That's curious. Strovia is the super initial hit bounces higher, and then Calamity 1, that's the reversal. It's the same thing. When it's air blocked, they land faster. So Testament I'm really intrigued with. Now, I have to fixate on that 5k reduced recovery. 5k as a dash cancelable limb is a big deal, and Testament's 5k was great. Basically all of Testament's pokes here that you really use, 5S, 2S, 5H, they all got buffed. They're all just better tools, which makes the ground game better, which further opens up like 5k dash cancel stuff. And with the Grave Reaper changes, with the skull projectile changes, as combo fill, it's better. As, part of your zoning offense is going to be better. I feel like it's just going to be much easier for Testament to come online. The Succubus sticking around longer after you do Grave Reaper also means that you have more time to just sort of play neutral and figure out what your opponent is going to be doing. I think this is good for Testament. I think these are very interesting changes. I don't know how much, with Testament being the newest character and how little I have seen of them at the highest level, I don't know how much this alters what Testament was already doing, but I do feel like I see what they're trying to do here, which is they're trying to really empower this mid-range tip of the scythe kind of thing and let you pester them a little bit more. That Succubus lasts longer. That means it's scarier for longer because there's this resource that you have to interact with. No changes to Stain, but I think with these other things, that's probably not the worst thing in the world. Because with all of these other tools getting stronger, they have to respect you more, which means there are more opportunities for you to keep your pressure going and cash out on that Stain in a meaningful way. So I think all in all, these are pretty good for Testament. So that's that. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I have no idea how I'm going to split this up, but that is all of these patch changes. Final thoughts. I love Testament's changes. I love Potemkin's changes. I think Potemkin players should be very happy. Giovanna, interesting. It seems like they're pushing her towards more Spiral Arrow. I really want to see how that plays out. I love the way that they have chosen to nerf Happy Chaos, and I love the way that it appears to me as though they have chosen to nerf Nagoriyuki. I feel like those are probably some of the most drastic swings that I can, see in looking at the patch notes on their own. Other characters that I'm curious about the new strength of Kai as they've changed his mid-range buttons, the impact of the JD change to Kai and Jacko. Actually, Jacko altogether, I want to see what this now looks like for that character. And Gold Lewis, also really interesting with the changes to Far Slash and 6H. So I'm going to be really excited to look at this patch and see how everyone enjoys all these changes. That patch is coming out. I think and that patch is going to be coming out June 10th. So I will see all of you then. Hope that you've enjoyed breaking down these patch notes. I've been Brad Muse. Take care.